journey week by week. SNL's best episodes they seek. From Carlin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our countdown of SNL's greatest episodes of all time. Our first Monday night in August, here to count down 21, 20, and 19. On this countdown, we've been doing all summer long on the Saturday Night Network. Of course, my name is John from the SNN. Very excited to be with you here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and back here with Bill Kenny. Bill, how are you?
Good, John. I had to put on my SNL 50 hockey sweater in honor of the triumphant return of Happy Gilmore. Getting to watch all our friends from SNL.
Wait, what is that?
Hockey sweater.
They had an SNL 50 hockey sweater?
Yes, sir. Come on, John. You didn't know
I didn't
that.
even see that in the shop.
Yeah. So kind of tipping the cap to our friend Adam Sandler. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very happy to have you and happy for Happy Gilmore too. So if you haven't checked that one out yet, definitely do that. We also have 3 amazing patrons on the show here tonight to talk through the episodes that we will be counting down. It's been a great countdown series so far. We're over halfway through now, and we have some amazing episodes coming up. So first, let's bring in my man, Dan Carlin is here. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing all right, John. John, Bill, great to thank you so much for having me back. Xander, Jeff, wonderful meeting you both. Just chilling here near Chicago, Illinois. Happy Gilmore 2. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's one of those great sequels that I enjoyed thoroughly watching. I'm not mad that it exists or mad that I watched it, but will probably forget about within 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a very good rundown of the movie. So we will see how people feel when we do our Happy Gilmore 2 recap one day. But for now, we're here to talk about the greatest episodes of all time. We got 2 more patrons joining us as well. So first, let's bring in for the first time on the SNN. It is Xander. Xander, how are you?
Hello. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bill. Hello, Dan. Hello, Jeff. Very happy to be here. Long time. How long is a long time? Like over a year?
I feel like that qualifies.
Long time watcher, first time participant. For sake of my cred, I'm not going to share my status on the Happy Gilmore movies and whether I have watched them.
I didn't mean to make it a pattern.
No, don't worry. It's all good. But Xander, I know it's your first time on the show here tonight. So do you want to just fill the listeners in on your SNL fandom? You have a good origin story for SNL?
My origin story is normal. I watched it at home as I was growing up. Started tuning in regularly, probably around 2019, 2020.
Okay.
Of course, grew up seeing Sweaty Balls, Dick in a Box. Boy, we are off to a great start, aren't we?
We are.
But yeah, just been tuning in regularly for a few years now, and this is how I get my fix in the off season. So thank you.
Well, very great to have you here, Xander. And also joining us for the first time on the SNN with an incredible setup is Jeff Robbins. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing good, John. Thanks for having me. And I'm excited about, as you said before we went on mic, that we're going to break the 4-hour mark tonight. So I'm excited about that.
That is exactly what I said, Jeff. Well, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your SNL fandom, since it's the first time they're getting to meet you?
Well, of course, I'm, as you can tell by looking at me, I'm a little bit older than most of the folks that appear on this wonderful podcast. But I came to SNL through SCTV, actually, which is a little backwards. I was 9 years old when SCTV started on NBC, and when I was growing up in Minneapolis, there was a local independent station that ran hour-long versions of the original era of SNL at 10:30. So I started watching the cut-down reruns at 10:30 before watching SCTV at 11:30, and then I just progressed to watching the live shows. I started somewhere in season 7. And I know I was live at the beginning of season 8 because, like the rest of America, I was quite upset that Tony Rosato was not back for season 8. You know, we remember the uprising when Tony Rosato got fired. So I was right there with it.
Yeah, big Tony heads over here. So, Jeff, really great to talk to you, and so glad to have a longtime SNL fan with us as well. So, Bill Kenny, let's do this. Let's go through the countdown from the last few weeks of revealed episodes and talk through where we are right now. So, I'm going to put the results up on screen. Spoilers ahead as we talk through. Let me hear. What's the best way to do this so I don't give you guys a headache? There you go. Let's do that this way. I'm going to put it all up on screen so you can't see us for a second, but I'll go through the countdown like this. From 50 all the way through 22, we got Patrick Swayze and Mariah Carey from season 16, Michael Jordan, Public Enemy from season 17, David Alan Grier and Silverchair from season 21, followed by Anne Hathaway and The Killers from season 34. Then we got Jerry Seinfeld and Annie Lennox from 17 as well, Conan and Don Henley from 26, Justin Timberlake's season 38 episode, William Shatner and Lone Justice from season 12, Justin Timberlake and Lady Gaga from season 36, Christopher Walken and Foo Fighters from season 28, followed by Alec Baldwin and Pavarotti and Williams at season 24. Then into the 30s, we got Sigourney Weaver at 39, Gosling and Stapleton from season 49 at 38, Alec Baldwin and the B-52s at season 15, Seth MacFarlane's premiere from season 38 at 36, Lindsay Lohan's episode with Usher from season 29 is at 35, Christopher Walken's season 18 episode at 34, Charles Grodin from season 3 at 33, Fallon and Michael Bublé from the Christmas episode of season 37 is at 32, Jason Sudeikis and Brandi Carlile season 47 at 31. At 30, we got Will Ferrell and Green Day from season 34, that finale. The original episode of SNL, George Carlin's episode, comes in at 29. We got Peyton Manning and Carrie Underwood at 28 from season 32, Pedro Pascal and Coldplay's episode, season 27 from just a couple years ago. We've got Hanks and Edie Brickell from season 16 at 26. Jack Black's episode from season 50 is at 25. Tom Hanks and Keith Richards, that's from season 14, actually not season 50, so 24. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler's from season 41 with Bruce Springsteen, that's at 23. And then last week, the final episode we revealed at 22, Don Rickles and Billy Idol. All right, guys, let's talk about this one. Bill, how do you feel about the countdown so far?
Yeah, Hanks and Keith Richards in season 50 would have been an absolute must see. No, this is great. I mean, we've talked about it towards the end of every episode. We've gotten almost half of the seasons and we still have 21 left to reveal. So I think that's really good that we're kind of getting everything from every era, basically. A lot of the second golden era, which of course is my era. So I love seeing that. And as Dana Carvey said, 86 to 93 was the best. So we'll see if we continue that trend tonight, John.
Yeah, a little bit debatable. We will talk about this as we get through the rest of the countdown. Dan, how are you feeling about the revealed results so far? Dan, just make sure you unmute yourself so we can just make sure that we hear you.
Sorry about that. I am not at all offended by any of the selections on the list. The order in which they appeared, and I feel like it's probably pretty close. It is a little like, I don't necessarily agree, but I do understand. I will say, on a positive note, the Seth MacFarlane Frank Ocean episode appearing at all it's so heartwarming to me. That was probably the episode that, like, a little over 10 years ago made me start to stick with the show on a weekly basis. And it's just parroting what somebody on that episode said, like, that is what made me fall in love with Seth MacFarlane as a public figure and as someone other than just Brian the dog and Peter Griffin. So I thought the coverage on that was great, and I'm really glad that was there.
Thanks, Dan. Xander, how do you feel about the countdown? Have the listeners gotten things right so far?
Right. Well, it's comedy is subjective. So whether or not they got it right is okay. Well, it's I think every episode here deserves to be here with I'm not going to say any exceptions, but I'm glad to see that just about every era is represented, to echo what Bill said. Whether or not we see the Coppola episode, I guess, is TBD. But I'm happy with this. I see some personal favorites. The Seth MacFarlane episode, the Sudeikis episode is a special one for me, as are, the David Alan Grier's episode is a personal favorite. Will Ferrell at the season 34 finale. Peyton Manning's episode, as you know, John, is a knockdown, drag-out classic. And I even appreciate Jack Black's episode from this past season being here.
Okay.
Let's hope we see him again.
Maybe. Very positive stuff from Xander. Jeff, are you feeling as positive on the countdown so far?
Well, I was all set, John, to come on and say I was disappointed with a couple things, but then I did my best Mike Murray impression, and I gave each episode a number based on the season that it was pulled from.
Okay.
And we're averaging out to season 26 as the average season covered here. So that's pretty much perfect. So, you can't complain too much about that. So, I'd love seeing the Don Rickles episode last week that you guys talked about. And, I would like to see more shows from the original era. I know we've got a long way to go on the list. But I would echo Xander. The David Allen Greer episode is a personal favorite of mine. I love that episode. And I was very pleased to see the Charles Grodin episode as well. So there's a lot of good ones here.
Yeah, I think this is one of those lists that I can honestly say now that we're more than halfway through and comparing it to what we did for the greatest hosts and greatest cast members. This one is the one that I think people are having the toughest time with, just because people are very sensitive to their episodes. The ones that they grew up with, they want to make sure that they're on the countdown. And I know that there's a lot of old fans of SNL that I think it is completely sacrilegious to get a new episode on the countdown. And then there's a lot of newer fans of the show that feel very strongly about their episodes. They feel like the Pedro episode is one of the best episodes they've ever seen. So, same with the Jack Black. And I think that all those things are justified. It is hard to say, and it's hard to find thousands and thousands of fans that have seen all 988 episodes of this show, but we did our best here. And I think that the results show that, like you said, Jeff, that's a great stat, that the average season right now, 26, that's pretty awesome. And we have covered mostly every era. So I feel pretty good about what we're seeing. I certainly don't think this would be, my top 50. I think that there's a lot of episodes that can interchange here, but that's not the exercise. The exercise is to talk through the listeners' top 50. So we're going to do just that tonight as we go through 21, 20, and 19. And I'll say that there are some episodes tonight that I am very excited personally to talk about, some of my favorites of all time that made the list. So let's jump to what I think, as I've said before on this countdown, could arguably be the greatest season in the history of the show. And it comes from a season in which we already have 2 other episodes on the countdown. So this is the first time we're getting to the 3rd episode from a season here on the countdown. So at number 21, let's talk about the first episode for Jon Hamm with music from Coldplay from October 25th, 2008. This is the famous episode where Amy Poehler goes into labor the night before and she's not there. And there's a lot of great things in this, including what is probably my favorite sketch of all time. I know I said that in the Peyton Manning episode that there was the one there that is probably my favorite, but it is like a 1A and 1B here with one of these sketches. And I cannot wait to dive into it. So Bill Kenny, how do you feel about starting here with Jon Hamm and Coldplay?
Well, we got to talk about one of my favorite episodes last week with Don Rickles. This would also be in my top 10 favorite episodes ever. I love Jon Hamm. I think Mad Men is underrated, even to this day, because it was on AMC, because it was very dark and set in the 60s, even though it did become very popular among certain groups. So Jon Hamm coming on, doing his best Alec Baldwin circa 1990, serious actor coming in. How's he going to do? What's he going to be like? And he kills it. Like he just brings it in every single sketch. It had to be a tough week, as you said, Amy not being there. We see some signs of that as we go on here with 5 correspondents on Weekend Update, 4 songs by Coldplay. So a lot of that is probably reshuffling the night before because Amy was probably in a lot of stuff. This is a great episode from top to bottom. As you said, one of the better sketches from Forte, as we'll talk about, and one of my favorite character sets also doing their final bow. So excited.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that, because for me, like when I saw Jon Hamm host SNL for the first time in 2008, I was like, oh, wow, this is Alec Baldwin-esque. And we talked a lot about that when he came back to host in season 50, but just the resemblance in terms of the presence that he brought to the show felt so similar. And he does something in this episode that no other first-time host gets to do, which is that he controls the last like 20 minutes of this episode. It is like him and Coldplay. There's not one other cast member that's there with the John Hamm, and then the Pat Finger, which we'll talk about. But it just shows the trust they had in this guy. He will ultimately end up coming back a few more times. But on this night, he becomes one of the more impressive first-time hosts in SNL history. So Dan, how do you feel about this episode ending up here at 21?
So I will make a confession to everybody right now. This is the first time. Last night I watched this episode for the very first time in full. Like, I had seen a couple of sketches. I was aware of how beloved of a recurring host John Hamm is. I love Mad Men. It was just I had kind of fallen off of the map by 2008. And man, what a just time capsule this episode is. And, you know, it's a topic I'm going to keep revisiting from sketch to sketch, but like based on where certain people were in their lives, where certain performers were, the fact that John Hamm was a relative unknown and AMC was being made fun of for people not knowing what it was. It's just like you couldn't have made this episode at any other time but 2008. It is such a cool time capsule. And it was insane watching it for the first time in full just last night.
Xander, how do you feel about this episode, reviewing it and it coming in here at 21?
In the words of one Chris Martin, Barack Obama, yeah. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Whatever.
I laughed.
In the lead up to tonight and doing my due diligence and going back and watching all these in full, I came back to this one the most. This has for a while been one of my personal favorites. I think most people would agree that it is a strong episode. I would even venture to say it's a little low. Like I might even like bump it at least in the top 20. Whatever, I'll take 21. But in this episode, you just, we'll get more into it later, but you get, like Dan said, it's a moment in time. Everybody, like so many people, like just get their shine on, and it's the beginning of a great SNL career for John Hamm, who I guess is an all right host.
I guess, because it is something that he got huge accolades for, and he would come back pretty soon after this. And of course, we all wonder why we got that long break from him. But Jeff, such an impressive debut for John Hamm.
Yeah, for sure. I think the obvious parallel is the Alec Baldwin episode that we've already covered on this list from season 15. So, yeah, just the job that he does right off the bat in the monologue and in his first sketch, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. How do you feel about the episode overall and whether it ended up on the list?
I think it's a very good episode. I guess when I rewatched it, I didn't like it quite as much as I remember liking it. And I guess I can get into some of the reasons why as we go through it, but it's still a strong episode and certainly deserves to be on the list.
Okay, that creates some fun to podcast about when we talk through the differences. So I'm excited to hear maybe where this episode didn't fully live up to its potential for you. But I am sort of with Xander. I do feel like this list is just this episode on the list is just slightly low, and it has a lot of great elements. We talked about the Hathaway episode earlier in the countdown. That comes very close to as I think that this run of episodes, including the Paul Rudd episode, like this is maybe the strongest run of episodes in the history of the show, just back to back to back. It is just like they're on such a high from the election and everything that they're doing here. So it is really the peak of the third golden era that we're going to end up. And I would say that, like I said, there's a sketch here that I am dying to talk about, but I wouldn't necessarily call it iconic in the SNL sense if I'm being objective about it. So I'll start at the beginning. We'll go through, which is that we are deep in election coverage. And instead of getting what we're very used to at the start of season 34 with a Tina Fey, Sarah Palin, we are getting Joe Biden before he's vice president, who is campaigning for Barack Obama. And he is saying some things at rallies that aren't necessarily great. We got Mirtha alongside of him, and Daryl and Jason are incredible in this cold open as they are just completely shitting the bed while they are trying to campaign for Barack Obama. So Bill, this is a fun cold open to look back at.
It is, and Mirtha is kind of a footnote of this time. He passed away a couple years after this, but he had made some comments about Western Pennsylvania, about rednecks and things like that. So he was in hot water, and Biden's there. They didn't actually have this rally, but it made sense to bring these two characters together that kind of had gaffes as they went on the campaign trail. I love Jason here pointing to people in the audience. I think we should do that on a hot take show, John. Like, oh, Demi's here. How you doing, Demi? Nice to see you out there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. You get to see Jason really at his best with his impression of Biden. So I love this one.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because like when you see a cold open like this, if you didn't know politics, I'm just putting this out there. If you're a big fan of SNL and you don't know politics and you watch this cold open, you would think that these two are conservative just because of the way that they're portraying them and the way that this cold open in terms of like the comedic tone is like, this is something they would typically rip on conservative politicians for. But the fact that these are two Democratic politicians that they're using for this cold open to me is really fascinating, knowing how hard they're going to lean in a certain direction eventually in modern times. Jeff, I'm so curious your opinion on getting to see this cold open. So I'll start with you here.
Yeah, well, I did my due diligence because I forgot who this John Murtha character was. So I went back and looked, and he had actually supported Hillary Clinton because he didn't think that people were progressive enough to vote for Barack Obama. So that's kind of where his comments come from. I think it's a funny cold open that kind of loses steam a little bit. I think it goes on for maybe a minute or two too long because there isn't really the escalation. Although I guess with Biden, he says crazier things as we go along, but the Murtha character just sort of keeps rambling about the same thing. Although I did appreciate the deliverance mention at the end. So to me, this is all right. It's an okay cold open, but I guess I didn't love it.
That's fair. I mean, I think that what is great for me, I mean, Daryl does a great job, but I do think Jason's Biden is really funny here as we're being more and more introduced to the character that he's playing and the idea that, in season 33, when they come back from the writer's strike, they're trying to figure out how to work in Fred's Obama. And it's sort of like this boring guy that's really cool, but like they don't know how to make fun of him. And I think they really clicked on something here with Jason's Biden, where he is the one that's going to screw everything up. And when he starts talking about being tested by a crisis the likes of this nation has never seen, and then warning people as they're all getting ready to set to vote for Obama, I think there's just a lot of really good political writing here, Dan. So, Dan, I would love to know your 2 cents on this cold open.
I enjoyed it as somebody who pretended to be transported back to 2008. Jason Sudeikis' Biden is easily my favorite Biden impression, followed like by a considerable margin by Dana Carvey. But man, just being transported back to that time and Biden being this young, vibrant 65-year-old man, and Obama being a kind of a wild card. This might just work, but it probably won't candidate. Man, it made me remember how great Jason Sudeikis as a whole was on the show, and it also just made me sad for the time we live in now.
That is fair. Xander, do you have anything on this cold open you want to touch on?
By the beard of Jupiter, gird your loins. That is all. No. Well, okay. So a little bit about me. As someone who is only somewhat cognizant of the 2008 election, there's some context I'm missing here. I did not know who John Murtha was. I'd argue I still don't know anything about him, despite watching this episode several times. There's a lot of I did not appreciate this cold open the first few times I watched it. I was just like, this is just turn my brain off, whatever.
Xander, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 21 years old. Now that we got that out of the way, some really funny one-liners tossed out there. And I'd say right when it's starting to get grating in terms of length is when they say live from New York, it's Saturday night. So I've grown to appreciate this cold open, though I would still call it a lull, although it says something about the strength of an episode that its weak points are still pretty funny.
I agree. I also think it just pales in comparison to a lot of the cold opens we get at the start of season 34. So nobody remembers this one, but it is very solid in the mix of other things that we're getting, where we're getting Downey and Seth writing a lot of these cold opens here. So I think there's some good writing. The monologue here, we don't have to touch on too much. It's basically John Hamm explaining what Mad Men is, because there was a time where, even though the show was pretty popular, it was very niche popular. So I don't know that a lot of people knew what the show was, but knew of John Hamm. And there's a good, explainer for him to come in and talk about the show. But let's talk about this first sketch after the monologue. So this is the Trick or Treat Jeff Montgomery sex offender sketch, which is, again, one of my favorites of all time, if not my favorite. So I have been doing the podcast now for almost 5 years. I've met a lot of people who say, okay, I've heard of Saturday Night Live, but I don't really get it. Like, can you explain to me what exactly the show is and like why you do this? And like, it's funny to think, because we're in this bubble of everyone loving the show. And I've said that if there's one sketch I would like you to start with, like, here's your starter pack for SNL, it is this sketch. This is a sketch that can only be done on the show by the performers that are in this sketch. The writing is so brilliant and so beautiful, and it is one of the funniest sketches I have ever seen. I have probably watched the Trick or Treat sketch 100 times, and it still makes me laugh. And I cannot believe that this sketch had been cut from the Brian Williams episode from season 33. And thank heavens that they finally found a way to put it on here with John Hamm, who did an amazing job opposite of Will Forte. So, Bill, let's get into this one here.
You're a bitch.
What?
Oh, my goodness. It's funny. I did not realize that this had been retconned, that Jeff Montgomery had appeared in the MySpace sketch with JLD. So that's interesting. Something I had not realized, but yes.
So I'll give a background to that, is that I had been rewatching the show in advance of season 50 to prepare to go to the carpet for SNL 50. And part of me doing that was I was rewatching, and I was sending some messages to Joel from SNL Archives to tell him about things that I noticed that maybe wasn't on the site. And when I saw that sketch, I was like, I think Forte's in his Jeff Montgomery costume. So we added that one in there.
So John Schneider's behind that. Okay. Well, that's fair. Listen, he's wearing the same jacket. It is about pedophiles. So yes, that absolutely is something I can see. But yes, this is an all-timer. I think I put Potato Chip above this, John, as far as all-time Forte for me. But yes, as far as if you're going to introduce, as you said, somebody who's not aware of SNL, this is someplace where you would go. John Hamm playing the straight guy here just does it so well. This is one of those moments, kind of like Green Hilly with Alec Baldwin in his first appearance. Right after the monologue, okay, we're going to be okay with this guy, because he comes right out of the gates and kills it.
Yeah, Potato Chip is an amazing sketch. I love the performance. It's all out, incredible, crazy. But the lines here are what make it so brilliant. The fact that it's so just told, like it's at two people on the street having a conversation, and it is the most ridiculous conversation that you could possibly have. I'm a sex offender for Halloween. And like the spacing in the lines goes to show you why Will Forte is one of the greatest cast members of all time. Jeff, not Montgomery, but Jeff Robbins, I got to ask you, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, this is a fantastic sketch. I'm surprised that both of you have already brought up John Hamm, because you can't do this sketch nearly as well as it's done if he breaks, or if you totally buy into his sort of horror at this guy who's on his front porch, and he just does a great job, like you said, right out of the gates. And Forte is fantastic. I love how he tries to circle around the drain and not really get to the point. Like you said, I'm a sex offender for Halloween. It's wonderfully written, and the end is a little bit of a cop out, I think, but the fact that they sort of highlight that it's kind of a cheap ending, I think they get away with it.
Yeah, it's just, you've already gone so far, so how do you end it on escalating it even further? I mean, he goes to the point where he's like, if I'm guilty for any crime, it's the crime of sexually assaulting my teacher. I can't even say it. It is like the tone shift in his voice, Dan, is so unbelievable that truly just amazing pinnacle stuff here for Will Forte.
He says it with such conviction too, no pun intended. And just You know, you guys were talking like maybe a couple of weeks ago about the virality of people breaking in the sketch, and it was the opposite of that in this. If either of them had broken, it wouldn't nearly be as legendary as it is. But man, what a couple of professionals Forte and Hamm are, and like kudos to them for keeping it together for that whole time.
It's so good, Xander. I would love to know if this is one of those sketches that really hits home with you too.
I mean, I'm a Forte guy. Like, I love him so much. I consider him my favorite cast member of all time. I'm gonna be that guy and say, like, maybe you couldn't do this now. But it is, even like, forget all that. The play between Forte and John Hamm, just perfect. And also just like the gall to, like, we're gonna talk about Forte more as we go along, but like, for this to be the lead off sketch of the night, and for Forte to just go for it. I mean, this is the guy who auditioned with Heart of Gold. Those who know. He's just this is going in the highlight reel, which to my knowledge we have not yet gotten for Forte. No best of DVD apparently.
I'll defend sex offending for a second, at least in terms of humor, and say that I think it could be done now. I think the thing here is, like, it's not it's generalized. Like, I know he's specifically targeting teenagers in this sketch, but it's generalized enough that it's not like specific to like an ethnic group where it's like, oh, do we want to go there? But like, I think for me, this is just like general horrible crime, like in a very cartoony person. And I think like that type of comedy is always going to be funny, where it's like, you never know what minefield that this person is going to step in. And the fact that he is just using Halloween as a way of getting his neighbor to sign his papers that he is allowed to live in his neighborhood is brilliant as a comedy piece. So I think like that's a piece that could be done in a stand-up. It's a piece that could be done in any sketch environment. I just think they found the right home for it. And for me, this is not only one of my favorite sketches of all time, I think it's one of the greatest sketches of all time. And I'm so glad that it's here to help boost this episode up. We then get a digital short. And if you've been listening to the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast, you've heard them talk about Roz Trent recently, which is something that the Lonely Island guys used to do a lot when they were in college in California. But here Andy is his Ross Trent character, and walking around the college as everyone is looking at him, just being a really, really bad version of I guess Jamaican. Like, I don't even know what the right term is here, but it is Rastafarian. Yeah. There is just, it's like one of those things that is, it's so cringy that I think it like really works for Andy. And there's moments here where they take it really to the extreme. Xander, would love to start with you here. What did you think of Ross Trent?
Would it be overkill if I wanted to interject at any point throughout the rest of the night, if I did so by saying "excuse I"?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think.
Okay, all right. Okay. So I did not know about this sketch at all, and like, you know, digital shorts are like something that I knew before I was even really cognizant of SNL and its place in the comedy pantheon. Since watching this sketch, I'm not joking, it has become quotable among me and at least like a few people in my life. Just like, my roommate Nick is an ignorant bald head. Me toil part-time at Jack Coldstone Creamery. Just the pure, like, the volume of one-liners here again is just, every time I love this one. In short, I love this one.
I remember being at a friend's house watching this episode for the first time as it was airing live, and like Trick or Treat just slayed me. And I was watching Ross Trent, and I'm like, all right, like, you know, the digital shorts, like there's a lot of really good ones in season 34, but like I'm still waiting for like that next like epic one to show up. And this one I was like, okay, and I was going, and then there's this like moment where Andy is like walking down the street, like doing his thing, and then like I believe there's like Jamaican people or extras like sitting there on the ground, and he has to like whisper talk as he's walking by them, and it is one of like the biggest laugh out loud moments that is in this entire episode. Jeff, would love to know from you if you have any Ross Trent thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing. He's very bold and cocky, and then when he meets actual Rastafarians, he just sort of slinks on by. So that was a great part. I like Xander. I love the non sequiturs. The my favorite is the puffs from the chalice he makes from the Sprite can. That's a great one. And I'm still trying to figure out what the deal is with Angela Lansbury and dreadlocks. I guess I don't really understand that reference either, but you don't really need to understand it to enjoy it. So yeah, it's a great one.
So I think on the Lonely Island podcast, they actually did like a step-by-step summary going through every single line and all of its references. So if you ever want to go check that out, it's a great resource for this sketch.
Do we have time for that tonight?
Not tonight, but unfortunately. But again, this is totally an underrated digital short as well, considering it's in a season with Jizz in My Pants, with I'm on a Boat, Mother Lover. Like there's a lot of ones that take the shine away from Ross Trent, but this is to me still a very solid one, Dan.
It was so oddly specific to, around the time that it was airing, I was going to a liberal arts college in downtown Chicago. And man, if I threw a rock in our campus, I would have hit like 6 of these guys. And like all of their dads were like investment bankers, and they smoked way too much weed, and they all had the same Bob Marley poster on their walls. And most of them like shaved the dreads off and got a corporate job from the same aforementioned father. Like it's just, I knew the archetype all too well, and I appreciated it for that reason.
It is just fantastic. And following that, we're going to go to a sketch which seems like a Mad Men sketch set in an office, and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I think it is really cool because we're now in an era where they don't really make fun of the TV show or movie that the host is from, especially now. But even then, like, we weren't talking about a TV show and being like, okay, well, this person's from Mad Men. Let's come up with many sketches from Mad Men. That was like a 90s thing that SNL was doing. So the fact that they went so hard, and they're going to do that for a couple sketches, into Mad Men was great. Keep in mind, this is also the week where all of the cast and writers dressed up as Mad Men characters, and that's the famous photo of everybody there online. So, clearly wanted to lean into it, but they combine that with 2 of my favorite characters from this era, which is the 2 a-holes. And we haven't had a chance to talk about them yet on the countdown, but this is the Jason Sudeikis and Kristen Wiig characters who are constantly chewing gum and just spitting the craziest things at everybody around them as they are being complete a-holes. And as they are trying to pitch a hula hoop. Bill, this is so much fun to get them together.
So much fun. 2 of my favorite characters of all time. Can't believe, even though these 2 will be on the show for another 4 to 5 years, that this is the last one we get, and we've never gotten it again, even in a hosting gig. I love the juxtaposition of putting these characters in this. You get John Slattery, who's never appeared on the show otherwise. You get Elizabeth Moss, who criminally has never hosted the show. She's only appeared twice in cameos, the Will Ferrell episode that we've already talked about, and the only reason she's there is because that was supposed to be Amy Poehler's role. So she came in last minute to fill in for Amy last second. Yeah, I love this. As somebody who was watching Mad Men in real time, getting to see, I mean, these characters are played so well. Bill Hader's playing this incredible version of Sal, who is coming out of the closet in the 60s, which was, a big deal. He had a wife and everything like that, and he plays that character very, very well. Them licking the sandwiches. I won't take it all because there's so much good stuff here, but yeah, this is mine now, licking all the sandwiches. This is fantastic. 2 of the all-time greatest cast members working together in one of their best roles.
And I believe this is where Elizabeth Moss meets Fred Armisen, and they're going to go on to be a couple for a while.
Correct.
But yeah, I think like 2 a-holes not being a part of this era after this point probably more has to do with John Lutz writing less for the show after this, which is, obviously we talked about him a few times on the countdown, the Peyton Manning episode, one of the greatest Lutz episodes ever. But yeah, him writing this sketch and these series of sketches, wish we could have gotten more of those down the road. And I have always wondered, with Kristen coming back sometimes, how come we never got the a-holes if they could bring back Jason? So hopefully one day we will get that opportunity here. But Xander, would love to know from you what your thoughts are on the 2 a-holes.
This is the beginning of, so I think if Forte did not just like have at the very least one classic in this episode, I would easily say the MVP is Bill Hader. Like, this is the moment, I feel like, because, like, we know Bill Hader now as being like a star. Many people consider him to be one of the greatest cast members in the show's history. At this moment, I don't know if he was really considered that, but I meant to take notes while I was doing my rewatches. I didn't end up doing that. But one thing I did not want to let leave me was just the delivery of grasshopper, which for some reason just got me. This is a good sketch. I love the two a-holes. I find it very funny in kind of a sad way, the fanfare for John Slattery's walk-on versus people believing for a split second that they're seeing Christina Hendricks when it's actually just Casey Wilson. But besides the minutia, good sketch. It continues the legendary run this episode is on.
It really is just a great run to start this show. And I think you're right. I think that's part of the reason why these episodes are so great in season 34 is that this entire cast sort of feels like they're all reaching their peaks at the same time. Bill's starts a little bit later than some of the others, and he's going to go on to really dominate over the next few years after this. But he's truly coming into his own in season 34 and has a great episode here. So, Dan, let me go to you and your thoughts on the two a-holes.
I love the two a-holes. I did not realize that was their final sketch. That feels oddly criminal considering how many recurring characters from that era have just reappeared in the last 10 years. There's one specific moment, and it's the second occurrence of this that made me bust out laughing, where Sudeikis is like, she wants a drink, and Hamm goes, I heard her. Which I don't know why that was so funny to me, but that was like my favorite part of the sketch. And it felt like such a cool crossover. It felt like a crossover episode between Mad Men and Saturday Night Live, considering how many cast members of Mad Men were included, which you don't normally get. Like going back to maybe the Twin Peaks episode that hosted by Kyle MacLachlan, like it's just Kyle playing Agent Cooper and the rest of the cast playing the supporting characters. I don't know that there might have been other show parodies where it had that many original cast members actually making cameos, but this one particularly seemed especially cool to me for that reason.
It is very cool. And like I said, not something that they would typically do in this era. After this sketch, we get the Barack Obama variety half hour. So this is, they're trying to find a way to get the Obama impression into the episode. We do have Maya Rudolph in the building. So that would give us a reason to have a Michelle Obama, or if they're trying to find someone to play Michelle Obama, they're going to have her there. And I think this is a pretty underrated one. It is so unbelievably catchy as they are singing Solid, the Ashford and Simpson song, but they're singing, Solid as Barack. And it has been stuck in my head since 2008, that whole thing, every time I've heard that song. So they're really great together. And they go and they involve all of the different cast members as different politicians, including we get John Hamm as JFK. So it is some good stuff here, Jeff, on the Barack Obama variety half hour. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think what I like the setup for this one, that he's so far ahead in the polls that they can kind of just do whatever the hell they want. And to the point of bringing on William Ayers and Pastor Wright, who had William Ayers was like a leader or in the Weather Underground, I think it was. And so, Obama was trying to distance himself from him. And he was also trying to distance himself from his pastor, who had said some not very pleasant things about race. So yeah, the fact that they're just there singing crazy, because who cares? I'm going to win this election, so I'll do whatever the hell I want. I think it's a great sketch, and it's short and sweet. It's a promo as opposed to the whole show, so I think it works really well.
And Bill, I see our friend Jay Morgan in the chat wrote this before I got to it, but this was actually originally the cold open for this episode that got moved to later in the show. So this one is the Seth Meyers piece that's written politically for the episode. The Biden Murtha rally is the Jim Downey piece that they put in. So they swapped those, and Downey was still contributing at least one political thing per episode around this time. So there was a little bit of like an inside battle that was happening in the writer's room, of Downey's political writing versus cess that was happening, and Seth would probably win out at this point in Downey's career writing for the show. But in this case, this was a win for Downey, getting his piece at the cold open, and Seth's piece ends up being a little bit later on. What did you think of the Barack Obama variety half hour?
Yeah, I knew that, and I feel like that's a mistake. I think this would have been a great leadoff. It probably made more sense. Even when you see the live from New York, it's a little clunky because they have to cut back to Jason as Biden. This would have made more sense, but it's fine where it is. I do enjoy this a lot. We get another version of Clinton from Daryl, one of the 91 times that he does this. Yes, seriously, 91 times, singing "Don't You Forget About Me." So that's a lot of fun as well. Yeah, I think this is really great to get all these people involved. We get Kristen's Pelosi, Barney Frank, which I think is done better from Fred, right? I think
Fred did it 3 times.
Fred did the best one. So, but it's fine for what it is because they're just singing. It's not necessarily an impression per se, but yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, I like getting Daryl's Clinton in here as well. Like there's some good stuff in this one, and that is followed by Don Draper's Guide to Picking Up Women. And this will be a pre-tape and the only appearance of Amy Poehler in the episode, who you could see is still visibly pregnant in this shot where they're going to show her most of her upper body. But yeah, another Don Draper piece and another Mad Men. And it's just crazy to think about how many times they would do this in the episode, but it's still a really, really fun commercial here with Don Draper talking about the guide for picking up women. And essentially he's just talking about his characteristics on the show and ends with the line, well, you just got to be Don Draper. And this is actually a Colin Jost written piece that made it into the episode as well. And sometimes you will get that during the week where people will write like similar ideas for sketches and they're just like, okay, well, everything is so good, let's just get it on. So Dan, were you excited for Don Draper's Guide to Picking Up Women?
I was. I think if I were watching this as it was airing, this would be the moment that I would realize how far John Hamm was willing to go comedically and just how great his comedic chops are. Taking an iconic character like John Draper that he plays and extending it to that certain level. Like it's like you would expect like lead actors in a lot of prestige dramas to take themselves and their characters really seriously and to be maybe a little overprotective of them. And this is the moment when you realize like, oh no, he is game. He is down for whatever. And the sketch itself, I could have taken or left. I thought there were some good points in it, but for what it represented to me as Hamm as a performer, I thought was pretty profound.
Yeah, Xander, how did this one compare for you to the two A-holes? Did you like the Don Draper's Guide for Picking Up Women?
I think Two A-holes beats it out for me slightly. I feel like this is one that like the Guide to Picking Up Women this is one that people celebrate a lot. It's not important, but I didn't watch Mad Men, but I get the gist. I think, it's quick. It's lightly funny, it's basically just like, yeah, you gotta be Don Draper. Amy, her one line in the show, she just puts over, let's get me out of the skirt. And not much to say beyond that. It's good. I'd say this and the variety half hour is maybe the lightest I am on this show, and it's still, like I said, just it's 21 on the countdown. So,
okay, Jeff, what about you? How does this compare to the Two A-hole sketch?
I probably prefer this. I like the escalation of this. He starts off number one. Tip is just be silent or give vague answers, which seems like something anybody could do. So you kind of buy into it, and then at the end, he just rattles off like 50 things that nobody can really pull off as well as Don Draper can pull off. So I like that rant he goes on for step 4 for basically just being Don Draper, which, none of us are that cool. So I think it's a great performance and a really nice piece. And yeah, great to see Amy in here for just for a few seconds.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, at this point, we as an audience don't know that Amy Poehler won't be a part of the episode. So, it's not like we have the reporting then that we do now. But yeah, it is great to see Amy, at least in retrospect, in this piece. Bill, this is our second appearance of Coldplay on the countdown. We got them in the Pedro Pascal episode, but here we're going to get performances of Viva La Vida, Lost, Yellow, and then even after the Good Nights, for some people, they got a performance of Lovers in Japan. So I think, there's been a lot of performers who've done 3 songs on the show. This is like the only 4 that we've had in, a long time. I mean, you have to go back to probably like Paul Simon, like some of the original era, but it just truly shows you how epic of a musical guest Coldplay is and what they mean to the show.
Yeah, they're making their case for, greatest musical guests in SNL history with just with these 2 that we've talked about alone. They're playing Yellow for the second time. We talked about that just a couple weeks ago, had they had done Fix You for a second time and how rare that was. Here's the same band doing that. At this point, they had done that all the way back in season 26 with Yellow. Yeah, Viva La Vida, #1 song at the time. So they're just great. I love seeing them. Even just a couple years ago when they came back. So they always bring it.
Yeah, let's do a quick round the panel for we could give some bonus points to Coldplay. Jeff, what do you think?
When I said earlier that I didn't like this episode as much as I remembered liking it, it's basically because I find these Coldplay performances to be particularly sleepy. And I think they're lip syncing. I think Chris Martin's lip syncing pretty much. And you mentioned it a second ago, John, but there was so much Coldplay in this episode that I was just waiting for them to reunite with Art Garfunkel. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
That brings the episode down a touch for me.
Dan, what do you think? Does Coldplay work for you in this one?
They do. I am a Coldplay apologist. I'm not afraid to say it. For everything they've done post 2012, they really did have those first 3 albums, and you can't deny that. And this is them at peak powers. This was following A Rush of Blood to the Head, where if you weren't alive or conscious during that time, Xander, you won't realize just what a monster of a band that they were. And between like the line in The 40-Year-Old Virgin and obviously the thing that happened a few weeks ago, it's very easy to boil the band down to just a bunch of punchlines. But this, back to my point of moment in time, like Coldplay was a beast of a band, and especially a live act back then. And this is a great recording of just the impact that it had, in my opinion. And the 4 songs is, a testament to that.
Xander, does it work for you?
So I was actually gonna mention, like, I don't know where we stand on Coldplay. I've come of age at a time where they've sort of become like a Maroon 5, just like the easiest punching bag probably ever. However, it burned me pretty bad to go back and actually listen to those 2000s Coldplay albums and find out, much to my dismay, that they're good. But no. Viva La Vida is a good song. I've gone back to Death and All His Friends. It's a good album. First 4 albums, all good by in my book. And in a worse episode, these performances might have just like dragged it down for me. Here, I'm okay with it. And also, like, I'm cool to hear Yellow again.
Yeah, in a way, depending on the type of SNL fan you are, if any band performs 4 times on the show, they may be automatically seen as epic, despite how good the performances are. But in this case, I do get the sleepy tone a little bit, Jeff, but I think it's kind of fun. Viva La Vida was just so huge at the time, so there's some good stuff for me. Let's talk about Weekend Update. So Weekend Update, as Bill alluded to, jam-packed Weekend Update that we have here. So we're going to have 4 sets of correspondence. We will have Seth Meyers opening Weekend Update to say that Amy Poehler is not here because she's having a baby. Big round of applause. This is the first time that Seth Meyers is on his own doing Weekend Update. I believe there was some debate back and forth of like, should we put somebody else with him? But Seth was like, nope, I'll take the reigns, and we get to see the first instance of what Seth would look like as a solo anchor for many years after this. The first correspondent is Will Forte as a robocall, which is sort of hard to explain what this is now, but the automatic calls for people to vote, as we get Will Forte being robocall ashamed, drinking oil, calling the suicide hotline. He's supposed to call and tell Black people that the election's canceled next week, as he's encouraging people to vote for McCain. As the Forte fan on the panel, Xander, I got to ask for you, how do you feel about Forte's performance here on Update?
I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw this, it actually bummed me out. Comedy aside, I was just like, I don't think I was in a headspace to watch someone like just that, a character that sad. Going back to it, like, all robocall now is Barack Obama's best friends with Osama bin Laden, or whatever he said. This is a good feature. I did laugh particularly hard at Seth hanging up the phone when he dials the suicide hotline. I've never called asking for movie times, so I learned something new when I watched this.
Yeah, Forte crushes every time he goes on Update and does something. To me, this is so great. I'd love to ask you, Dan, about Ralph Nader here, who comes in next. This is the performance from Bill Hader as Ralph Nader, who is somehow still a part of like every presidential election, just not one of the main two candidates, as he's here. And he has a great line where he goes, "Hello, Seth. Hello, Amy." It was basically alluding to the fact that like everything is so scripted and stilted here that he can't possibly change the line, knowing that Amy Poehler is no longer there. So this is good stuff from Bill Hader.
I mean, real ones know that Ralph Nader's candidacy is what kept Al Gore from winning the 2000 election, and thus setting us down the timeline that we are on now. So,
it's okay. You're all good. Go ahead.
So I mean, Bill Hader is great at everything that he does. As much as I cannot stand what the actual politician represents, like the performance was captivating. The script, like what I had to say about it was roughly him addressing Amy while she wasn't there. That was the top thing for me. But man, like, what a stacked cast we had back then that we didn't necessarily appreciate as much as we should have at the time.
Yeah. And you could go back even further. I mean, maybe if they let Ralph Nader in the 5 Timers Club, then the whole thing wouldn't be happening the way that it did even up to 2008. So great stuff here from Bill Hader. We're going to get Fred Armisen as Nicholas Fane doing some improv. And I got to speak to Fred about a month ago and asked him about this and just double checking like, hey, is really everything on the fly? And of course, like, I feel like whenever they had a Nicholas Fane, wherever they needed some time to fill, they probably went to him for Nicholas Fane. So Jeff, would love to know from you your thoughts on Fred as Fane here.
I want to go back to robocall just for a second because I absolutely love that, and I don't want to push that aside because to me that's just a smidge below Jeff Montgomery. I just thought the robocall was hilarious, and the line about how he's just used to scare old people I liked. Yeah, and the Nicholas Fane, I mean, this is I think his 5th appearance in about a year, so I think by this point I was getting a little tired of it. Unlike the Two A-Holes sketch, they found a way to make that fresh by bringing it into the Mad Men world, and this was just to me kind of the same thing again. So I was not super thrilled to see Nicholas Fane again.
Yeah, I'll defend Nicholas Fane. I won't have to feign excitement. I think that he is the type of character that I love to see on the show in a Don Rickles way, like in the way that we saw the last episode. It just that, like, I love it when the show goes improv in a way. Like for me, like, he could just keep going and going and going, and you never know when he's going to stop. And I think that's the reason why I defend Garth and Kat, and that's the reason why I defend Nicholas Fane, because I think it's different and fun for the show. So for me, I enjoyed getting to see this. We will also have Kenan Thompson and Maya Rudolph come on and sing "We Love You, Amy" as the show ends, in a really nice moment with Seth there as well. So Bill, how do you feel about the ending to Weekend Update and all the correspondence we saw here tonight?
Yeah, it's a very nice way to end. I cannot believe you're defending Nicholas Fane. I mean, Garth and Kat I can get behind because I feel like that was a stronger improv. This is the same damn thing. He's looking at it. No. like it's the same thing every time, 7 times. Are you kidding me? Like we would be losing our minds in modern SNL if this was happening today. So no, but yes, this a very positive way to end. Bringing Maya on was really great, and Seth's little wave at the end. I really, it is interesting to think about Seth doing the solo, because when Tina missed a few episodes and Horatio filled in, maybe that's why they didn't want to do that for a couple episodes, because that went so poorly. But maybe Seth was kind of knowing that Amy wasn't going to stay much longer, kind of planting the seeds to take over by himself. But first time in 8 years that we get somebody by themselves.
Yeah, it's always really fascinating. I think about the time that Tina Fey did Weekend Update with Michael Che, and it's just like one of those things. Whenever there's something a little bit different, it does create some excitement on the show. So everyone's like, "Ooh, all right, is Amy going to come back? When is Amy going to come back?" It was an interesting time to be an SNL fan. Following Weekend Update, we get a big surprise in the real time, and I'll tell you why. Because Vincent Price sketches with Bill Hader was something that was done in season 31 of the show with a writer named Matt Murray, who was no longer on the show. Bill Hader had really wanted to get this on. He auditioned and did some stuff. And there was the whole famous line of like, why now? Why are you doing this, from Lorne Michaels for Vincent Price? And John Mulaney gets hired as a writer in season 34. And he starts working with Bill Hader, and they'll go on to become like one of the greatest, cast member writer alliances in show history. But he's going to encourage Bill to bring back, along with Seth, the Vincent Price's Halloween special. And we get a sort of a reinvention of this sketch, which will appear a few more times for the next few seasons. But here comes this sketch. Fred Armisen as Liberace, Kristen Wiig as Gloria Swanson, and John Hamm as James Mason. He actually played Dean Martin at dress rehearsal. There's another great story there. But still, this to me, Bill, is another fantastic sketch in this already great episode.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen this version so many times because of the Halloween specials. I think it's still part of the best of that they do every year. But yeah, Kristen is on top of her game here with, you're talking about actors, actresses that have been mostly forgotten to time. I mean, Gloria Swanson, some people would still know who that is, but yeah, she's doing that the whole pirate thing. I'm a pirate is just classic Kristen. Fred's Liberace is very good here. I think Phil did it better, but that's a high bar to set. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love when they do these pieces from people from 50 years ago that nobody remembers, and brings them all together in this scenario. So yeah, and Bill's, of course, great as always.
Yeah, I know that the Liberace stuff doesn't always play for people, like gay jokes, how does that work? But I do think there is something like, obviously sexual about the way that they're going about the jokes. And I think that it's more like in the pun themselves, or in the wordplay that they're going on, where he, says like, I've never seen somebody take something down so fast. And in the background, out of nowhere, pipes up Fred, I have. It is like, those are the things that really work here. I do love the exasperated Vincent Price from Bill Hader getting upset with Fred Armisen as Liberace. So I think that this is like sort of like the type of gay humor that I'm okay with on the show versus a lot of the other things that we end up seeing. But for me, these sketches always crack me up. Jeff, I'd love to know your thoughts on revisiting Vincent Price's Halloween special.
Yeah, there's going to be a sketch we're going to talk about later on another show that has much more offensive gay humor, I think, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, I love this sketch. I think, John Hamm is fantastic here. I think he's the MVP of this sketch. I mean, I'm old and I barely know who James Mason is, but it doesn't really matter. He's, if I had a dime for every time I've shown up at a party and said, yeah, I pissed myself on the way over here. I mean, that's just a great line. And then he also says, where are the whores? I mean, that's fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, Kristen Wiig's kind of, she's doing the Gloria Swanson thing. I think she's kind of doing a Carol Burnett thing, who, I'm dating myself there as well, but yeah, I think John Hamm is fantastic here, and of course Bill Hader as well. It's a very welcome return for these sketches.
Yeah, Dan, what do you think of it?
I just want to point out how you can tell in this day and age how, to your point, John Mulaney's creative fingerprints are all over the sketch. The old timey references, the thinly veiled gay jokes, which, he seemed to be more of a fan of back in the day. Like, you can tell, like, this, like, his influence was starting to show it around this time.
It's very true. Xander, are you a fan of the Vincent Price sketches that we get from Bill Hader?
I am. And actually, as a matter of fact, I was told before we went live tonight to save my sassy asides for my windowless bars. But yeah, I love this. Would you call this a parade sketch?
I would not. I think
Okay.
this is more of a scene. I think it would be a parade sketch if the doorbell was constantly ringing and we were just waiting for who would be coming in next. And I don't think we get that here.
That's right. Okay. Well, regardless, every performer in the sketch is just on it. Again, this like continues Hader's just ascension this episode. I love these sketches, but this sketch in particular. There once was a girl named Regina. Just like it, again, the lines, you can really hear Mulaney in this one, as to Dan's point. Yeah, I would come back to this one like often.
Yeah, it's truly great stuff. And then the end of this episode is, 3 performances from Coldplay and 2 solo pieces from John Hamm. So the first one is a pretty famous piece. This is a Seth Meyers one, John Hamm's John Hamm, as he's eating ham on the John. And it's just simply Seth Meyers needing to come up with a great pun for his name. And I think that he does such a great commercial pitchman here that every other commercial John Hamm is going to do in the future is always going to be compared back to this one. And then we'll have Pat Finger, which is him playing a politician. We're right in the middle of election season, as we're going to get another pun of Pat Finger, who's running in Butts Valley. And the slogan is, "We're going to need a finger in butts." Eventually, we'll get other versions of this commercial as it come back, and he'll change his name to his, I think his mother's maiden name, Pat Dildo or something like that. And it is something that is like so silly, but it is just probably the most unique series of segments in modern SNL time, where you're going to get a solo host piece, a musical performance, another solo host piece, musical performance, and then good nights and more music. And it is just something that they could really only give to an incredible host that will go on to become an all-timer. And I think we had him just either right inside or right outside the top 10 last year, Bill, as far as hosts are concerned. So we'd love to know how you feel about how this episode rounded up and your final thoughts on it coming in here at 21.
The trust that they had in this first time host. I mean, I think that a lot of them were already friends with John. He's going to go on to do Bridesmaids not too long after this. So there's a lot of connections already there. But to put a first time host by themselves twice in the last 20 minutes it is incredible. And John Hamm's John Hamm is, I mean, still one of my favorite pieces of all time. When he starts explaining that it's not a play on his name and he's got 2 M's, feel like a dummy yet? It's just such a great line. Yeah, and even though it's all very punny, it still works for me.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the episode overall now that we went through it?
Oh, I mean, this is just at the beginning of a great career. We were so excited about Jack Black coming back in season 50. I was just as excited to see John Hamm come back because it had been so long. We had gotten him in season 49 in a cameo, but we were all kind of clamoring for this unbelievable host to come back. And he starts off his career so well here. Well deserved where this is.
Totally agree. He came in at number 11 on the countdown last year. I had him at 16. Bill had him at 18. Ultimately, this is before the 4th time he hosts. I think, quantitatively, he probably goes up on our list after last season. But again, it's just one of those, if you go back to our conversation, after watching him for the first time here, you would think he would go on to host the show at least 10 times. Like, that's just how good he was. So, Dan, let me ask you for how you feel about how the episode ended and your overall thoughts on it.
I thought the episode ended beautifully. Pat Finger, it felt stilted and right next to John Hamm's John Hamm because they're both plays on words. They're both more or less like one character sketches. And John Hamm's John Hamm solely wins out for me because like any sketch involving toilets is already going to shoot up favorably for me. Possibly my favorite sketch in the modern era is Undercover Office Poppy. So take that how you will.
Such a classic. Xander, your overall thoughts on this episode?
I'm going to keep it brief and evoke Andrew Dick for a moment. Boom, stamp classic. Boom,
All
stamp
right.
classic.
Love the energy. Love the energy. Jeff, let's get your final thoughts on how this episode ended and your overall feeling on it.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. I think John Hamm is just one of my absolute favorites. There's just so many good lines in there, and unlike other bathroom ham dispensers, like there are other ones, and just the way that he sort of points to the toilet, it's on the opposite side, and that's just fantastic. I think the Pat Finger stuff would play better if the three pieces were spread out throughout the show, which obviously production wise is harder to do. But I think that he starts the second one by saying, boy, I got a lot of fan mail about or a lot of hate mail, or a lot of people giving me a hard time about my last ad. We had just seen it, so to me that doesn't work as well, even though the ads themselves are very funny. And then I think that so those could be spread out. I think that'd be better. And of course, I would have rather had another sketch than another Coldplay song, but overall this is a fantastic episode and certainly well deserving here on the list.
Yeah, I know at the beginning, Jeff, you said that you felt like this didn't necessarily meet your expectations. Where was the sketch here or the segment that you felt didn't live up to the hype?
Well, I don't want to nitpick. I think I think the cold open is not the best, and again, too much Coldplay for me and Nicholas Fane. But that's minor stuff compared to all the great stuff we get here.
Yeah, that's fair. So a couple things that were cut from this episode just as some fun anecdotes. So there was going to be a Bronx Beat sketch naturally with Amy not in the building. That's the one that you couldn't get in. So I assume that would have fit somewhere towards the end of the show. And then there was going to be a sequel to the John Hamm sketch in this episode. There was going to actually be John Slattery's John Slattery, which I don't know exactly what that was, but they were supposed to play around with that. So at least I had that noted that they were going to have Slattery in something else as well. But for me, by far one of my favorite episodes of all time. I do think this is a top 20 episode in SNL history. It just hits all of the highlights and peaks of what you're looking for. I wonder if Amy Poehler doesn't go into labor, if this is maybe a top 10 episode of all time. Like, I think there's added elements and fun stuff about them celebrating Amy's eventual like having a baby, but I think that there's possibility if you get the full cast in here, maybe it's even greater. So there's a lot of cool stuff here with John Hamm and Coldplay, and certainly an iconic episode in SNL history. So that is it at number 21. Let's move into the top 20 episodes in SNL history, according to you. And we're not going to go very far back in time for this one. This, to me, is what I would absolutely consider a modern classic. I know that the big overarching question will be, is it too soon to call it as such? But I'd love to talk through what we just saw from season 49 with Kristen Wiig and musical guest Ray. This is Kristen Wiig's 5th time hosting the show. For context, a lot of people love Kristen, consider her maybe a Mount Rushmore episode, a cast member in SNL history, but her episodes, didn't get all the fanfare that she got as a cast member. This episode, though, watching this on this night, April 6th, 2024, everyone was in love with what they saw from Kristen Wiig with music from Ray. It is one of those episodes that just hit on so many marks, and I'm so excited to talk about this one here, making it all the way to the top 20. Bill Kenny, how are you feeling about this episode?
Keep coming back to, as you said, is it too soon to talk about these things? We've talked about it with Sudeikis, Jack Black, Gosling. But listen, if you were going to ask super fans of SNL how they would want an alumni episode to go, this would be it. This is the blueprint SNL. When you bring somebody back, you bring back characters that we haven't seen in 15 years. You bring back new ideas to mesh with the new cast. Getting to see her work with somebody like Dismukes in the way that she did, as we'll talk about. And Heidi, this is just fantastic from almost start to finish. I think the cold open is very weak here, but everything else about this episode makes it a classic already.
Yeah, this is our second season 49 episode we're talking about. The other one is the episode that follows this one with Ryan Gosling that mostly gets on because of Beavis and Butthead. I mean, there's some still other good things in there, but that is the big sketch from that episode. This one, though, I know that there's, to me, an epic sketch in here, but I think it is so good from start to finish, a lot of these, that I don't know that it's necessarily like, oh, this one got on here because of X. So for me, this is just like an all-time great episode from Kristen that I know this is going to end up at 20, and it probably has a lot of recency bias to it, but I would feel very confident in saying that this is an episode that, even if we did this countdown in 5 years' time, still makes the top 50. It is that good. So Dan, would love your overall thoughts on
I
it.
unlike the last episode we covered, I watched this one live, and watching this in succession to the one we just covered, it really just shows the beginning and where we are now in the legacy of a legendary cast member. I mean, save for the fact that we also see John Hamm in the monologue, and at this point he's like become a legendary host. It's just one of those like how time passes type of moments. And it also, the thing that spoke to me the most, putting that in the context of all of her other hosting gigs, is how well she blends in with whatever cast she's working with. She works great with Heidi. She worked great with Cecily in the QVC sketch like years ago. And, her characters fit. She's such, even if she's not technically your thing, she's such like a timeless cast member. And like, she's like the star and the glue all at once, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I really do think if you ask the producers today, they would have wished this episode took place in season 50. And I remember us wondering at the time, like, oh, are you going to use up Kristen's Five Timers episode in season 49 when 50 is right on the horizon? I mean, I'm so glad we got the episode in the way that it was presented to us. But still, to me, this is like a great, well, probably one of the best Five Timers episodes. Xander, your thoughts on it overall?
I watched this one live, and as did we all watch this one live?
Yeah, we covered it all week long.
Okay. Full disclosure, not super into. I didn't think 49 was a great season. But this episode, coming after, I think it was Rami Youssef who hosted the previous week, and I was hoping for something good, and I kind of didn't get it. I watched this live. I was super high on it. I was laughing all the way through. I think this episode has a distinction of, in a modern era where we get a lot of walk-ons, a lot of cameos, I think this episode has one of the more tasteful uses of cameos in this time. I loved seeing Forte in like 2 sketches post monologue. I thought Hamm was used really well. The monologue was very sweet, very funny. Not gonna lie, on rewatch, I'm not like in love with this episode as much as I was. I think at the time I needed a win and I got it. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna be happy about this for the next week. But still a very good episode that I'm eager to get into.
Yeah, I think season 49 has some high highs and some low lows. And I think this is on the high version of, in the 2020s, this is one of the better or best episodes there is. So Jeff, would love your thoughts on it.
Yeah, when I got the list of episodes that we were going to be talking about tonight, I will admit that this was the one I was least excited about. And I'll be honest, I hadn't seen it before, but I was really pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this episode. And I think I'll echo what Xander said. I think you get a lot of people complaining about the cameos, and I think the cameos in this episode work really well. And the people that are here for a reason, and they're used really well, to repeat myself. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic episode. I'd probably echo also what Bill said about the cold open. That's probably the low point of the episode. And then after that, it's gangbusters.
Yeah, so let's quickly go through that cold open. So this is a March Madness cold open. All of the talk is about the WNBA or impending Caitlin Clark to the WNBA as the women's tournament is happening at the same time as the men's tournament. And then you get Kenny and Chuck here talking about they would rather talk about the WNBA, but they don't really know the players or the teams. But it's sort of the sentiment of the country as women's basketball is getting more popular. This will be
It's not
followed
the
up.
WNBA. They want to talk about women's college basketball.
Yes, but then Caitlin Clark eventually being drafted into the WNBA,
Sure,
and yeah, no worries. But yes, they're talking about the March Madness tournament for the women at the same time, and Caitlin Clark will actually be appearing on the show in the next episode that we talked about with Gosling. So really, it is so as again, people are sort of the mood of the country is turning into this infatuation with women's basketball. I think it's something that is very of the time and interesting, but from a comedic perspective, Bill, there's not too much here beyond just getting in some, impressions of Charles Barkley and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's never bad to see Charles Barkley with Keenan, and I think Devin does a serviceable job as Kenny Smith. But it's already dated, and it's only been a year plus as far as that men's tournament was really terrible that year. Like, even as a sports fan, I had to remember, that was a bad tournament that was going on. And the ascension of women's sports, it of course, is great. But they didn't find the funny here at all for me. So I didn't like it then, and I didn't like it now.
Yeah, I think more people will remember ultimately Caitlin Clark appearing on Update that we're going to get in the Gosling episode right after. But I think it's this monologue that truly is something that people will definitely remember from the episode. So there was a lot of talk in advance, naturally, with Kristen appearing for the 5th time. Are we going to get another Five Timers Club sketch? Will we see the club? And of course, we'll get that with Marty later on in 2024. But we do get Kristen Wiig coming up here, looking for her jacket, and she'll have a conversation with Paul Rudd, who is in his jacket, showing up here for the Five Timers Club, only to find out that there's not really a sketch happening. And it's sort of like a little bit of an inside joke where Paul Rudd had his Five Timers episode canceled because of Omicron. And he's just like waiting to celebrate and all of that. He will have the Mulaney one later in season 47 as well. But, you'll have Paula Pell show up, which is really nice to get to see Paula in a monologue. I remember we mentioned that night about how many episodes she showed up as a monologue, as a writer in a monologue. And then to have her here was really nice. Someone who wrote a lot for Kristen during her time at the show. Matt Damon will show up. We'll get some inside jokes about him playing Kavanaugh and hosting twice. And then this just very classic bit, which is if you could clip out one moment from this monologue, I think it's Fred Armisen standing there with John Hamm, Will Forte, and Marty Short and Lorne Michaels as they're all talking about their jackets. Fred and Will, who have both hosted once. Fred in a very short version of the jacket. Forte's making a bunch of jokes. John Hamm asks if he could host for the 4th time coming up soon. So that would end up being very fortuitous as he would end up hosting for that 4th time. And Marty just barking. It is very funny. Ultimately, we find out they give out jackets to everybody, and Ryan Gosling will even get one for hosting the next week. And I love this monologue so much because as a big of a fan I am as the Five Timers Club, we talked about the original sketch with Tom Hanks. The flip on it, just the subverting our expectations, is what is so fantastic here. So Jeff, let me ask you to start this one. You said you were watching it for the first time. How did it feel to see this?
Yeah, I love the fact that they sort of take the piss out of themselves a little bit, and they kind of make fun of themselves. This Five Timers thing. They've made such a big deal about it, and now Matt Damon's getting a jacket because the first time he hosted it was so good. It was as good as 3 shows, and then the second one was it was as good as 2 shows. And yeah, I love the fact that there's just kind of making fun of it a little bit. And Fred Armisen wearing the short jacket and Marty Short yelling, "How dare you put Lauren on the spot like that?" And kind of protecting the boss. It's just so great. And I think the cameos here are really well done. And it was a delight to see everybody kind of pop up and do something funny.
Yeah, and there's just sort of this run that Marty goes on of randomly appearing in cold opens where he's just going to sit do something really weird for 2 seconds. But it just cracks me up every single time. And this was so good. Xander, I would love to know your thoughts on the monologue.
This monologue has everything. Fred Armisen in a skimpy jacket, Matt Damon flubbing a line, Lenny Pickett speaking. I wanted to point that out specifically because I appreciated it then and I appreciate it now. This is a sweet monologue. It's it's like it's light on the absurdism, like, oh, I guess everyone gets a jacket, huh? And to a degree, meta, and self-deprecating. But not much to say about this monologue. I just really enjoyed it. I thought the song at the end was really sweet. Yeah, a good way to start after the whatever cold open.
Yeah, I just think it's always really fun when you just never know like who's going to be there to support somebody like going through this big celebration at the show, and they did it in a way that was really creative. So, Dan, did you enjoy the monologue?
I absolutely did. And for the most inane of reasons, I'm such a sucker for the meta, self-referential inside baseball monologues and sketches. So this hit me in all the right places. And concurrently, I absolutely love how there's a multi-episode arc about Paul Rudd refusing to let go that his Five Timers party was canceled by COVID. I like how he has brought this up in multiple episodes following, and I hope he keeps doing it.
Yeah, it is so great. Bill, you were on the Hot Take Show with me that night when this episode aired with Kalina and I just think we had a blast talking about this monologue.
We did, and the Paul Rudd part of it is, John, I don't know if you'll get this reference, the Armando Galarraga of SNL. So
I get that.
Okay, so like for those who don't know, he threw a perfect game, but it got ruined on the last play because the umpire called a wrong play. So he actually made more of a career out of not getting that play than actually getting a perfect game. I think that's what Paul Rudd is here, right? Because if he had had a normal Five Timers episode and it was kind of like, he's going to be remembered more than most Five Timers, let's be honest, because of the Omicron episode, because of how unique, and the fact that he's doubled down on it, as Dan said, like it's, he keeps coming back. I think he came in with Mulaney with that whole thing and them trying to take the jacket away from him and all of that. But yes, finding a different way to cover Five Timers. And having an opportunity to bring in people like Fred and Will and Marty later getting his jacket later this year. So that was really nice. And I think Lorne just really looks happy here. Like sometimes when he appears on camera, he's just kind of doing the stoic Lorne thing. He really seems into this. And I think having his buddy Marty there with him really made a difference.
That, and I think he just loves Kristen. Like for
Yes.
him, just to have Kristen in the building, he knows it's just going to be a safe week and an amazing week. And we get to the Jumanji sketch, which is a sketch that Bill and I talked about in the top 10 sketches of 2024. So I've spoken about it so much. I don't know what else I could say besides the fact that like Andrew Dismukes goes head to head with Kristen Wiig here. And it is like one of those things that like almost like another baseball reference where you see this like veteran pitcher going up against this young hitter and you just want to see like what's going to happen, like who's going to win out. And I feel like Andrew Dismukes like completely holds his own, and the cherry on top to this sketch is Will Forte coming in at the end. But it is just a brilliant sketch full of a series of jungle emergencies. And Dan, I just would love to know how it was for you revisiting Jumanji.
Oh man, I mean, number one, it would absolutely show up on Dismusic's best of DVD, like bar none. And I shouldn't have used up my Cecily Strong QVC sketch reference earlier on because this is kind of the second time where you've seen like a newer cast member matching up with the veteran that is Kristen Wiig, and like matching each other's energy and intensity and playing off of each other in a way that could like say that they work with each other every week. And I thought the Will Forte coming in at the end was the cherry on top. It's my favorite sketch of the night, bar none.
It is so fantastic. Xander, your thoughts on it?
I saw someone in the chat, I think Sherry, said this was the beginning of the Dismukes Renaissance. As a Dismukes truther, I think this was the shot heard around the world. He has such a moment in this sketch, and yet the funniest line from him is still, "I am the man of this house." Just hearing that coming from him just gets me in such a way. I love this sketch. I think beginning to end, it's just a fun wallop of accelerated anxiety and frustration. And of course, Forte just puts a neat little bow on the whole thing.
It's very I drive a
I'm
Dodge
sorry,
Stratus.
may I interject?
Go ahead, Dan.
The "I'm the man of this house" line is incredible, but what did it for me was Dismukes yelling about what Jumanji as a verb means, whether it's being sucked into Jumanji or Jumanji being Jumanji comes out. It's like that. That is Dismukes' defining moment of his entire SNL career in my eyes.
100%. You send that tape to the Hall of Fame. Like, that's the one that you want to see from this guy. So, Jeff, your thoughts on Jumanji?
Yeah, I love sketches where somebody's acting in a way that you think they're sort of crazy, and then they turns out that they were right all along. And so when that fall comes out of the box and Kristen Wiig's character is proven correct, that's fantastic. Also, on a personal note, my family plays a lot of Ticket to Ride, so that hit kind of close to home as well. So I enjoyed that aspect of the sketch, and of course, Forte is definitely
a real board game.
I had the same question.
That's a real
Thank
board
you.
game, and there's many versions of it. You can buy the San Francisco version and the Europe version and the whatever. Yeah, they're making a lot of money off of that game. Somebody is.
Yeah, Bill, I remember us having the take of this sketch that it is a 10 out of 10 sketch before Will Forte enters the ending, and him just coming out puts it over the top.
Yes, and one of the things that escalates this for me is, when you're talking about all-time sketches ever in the history of SNL, when you can go back and watch something for a 20th, 30th time and still find something different that you laugh about. And watching this week again, and how much they kind of crush Chloe for talking about the Kevin Hart version of Jumanji as opposed to the Robin Williams version is so great. Forte, yes, it adds to this a lot. There's so many great lines in this that we've talked about over and over again. It's just a movie. You literally can't prove that. Kristen just shows she's still on the top of her game. 12 years removed from being part of the cast.
It is so great. We get a Pilates sketch next, which is a Pilates movie commercial based on or from the producers of Saw X. So all of the Pilates tropes, but horror themed. We're going to see Kaya Gerber in this one as well. So like a really fun commercial, especially for people who, go to Pilates, and there's a lot of nuance here that I think is very much enjoyed, and a nice like tone setter after the horror of being sucked into Ticket to Ride to then go to the Pilates. I think that they really like laid this out very well back to back here. But I want to talk more about the secretary sketch, which is Heidi Gardner, who I think had a fantastic season 49 and really will be well remembered for her roles in this season. But this was a character that I felt was like something that hit so close to home. It reminded me a lot of Kristen Wiig when she first did it in the premiere of season 49 in that Pete Davidson episode. And then I saw her just have so much joy in the way that it was performing. And I was like, in another era, she would have done this 10 times. Like, it was just so much fun. And it just made perfect sense to put John Hamm in the building. You're going to have him sort of have that Mad Men-esque role that we're going to have him open up with alongside Bowen. And we're going to meet Trudy and Rudy. So Kristen Wiig alongside Heidi Gardner. Just very quick-witted, a lot of lines, a lot of falling through desks. And then one of the moments that I think, everyone will always remember Heidi cracking up in Beavis and Butthead. People will never remember the moment of Heidi trying to break through the set and the globe flying off her head, and just that moment of her sitting in her bra laughing, which again, she doesn't break. And that's the reason that the Beavis and Butthead sketch was so iconic. But this is a moment here that I think is so funny to me to rewatch. And again, another great sketch that's totally underrated from this episode. Bill, your thoughts on revisiting it?
Yeah, as you said, Heidi doing this at the beginning of 49, it felt like a Mad Men sketch at that point. So to have John there to be able to use him in that way, two of the best physical comedians that we've ever had on the show. The only thing that would have made this better, maybe if they do it a third time, is bringing Molly Shannon in to kind of break through a wall too. But yeah, the desk won't break. Her going through the wall doesn't work, and the globe falling off. So everything that's happening here is great. And the sketch itself, Kristen licking his tie, them warming the sandwich between their asses. I mean, it's just great. And seeing these two icons work together. Again, we said it about Dismukes, but the same could be said of Heidi. Like she's had an incredible career. If it ended today, it would still be an all-timer. So to be there with Kristen like this was really, really fun to see.
Yeah, the bourbon on the racks. Like there was a lot of things there that I think really were gonna. And Heidi's one of those performers that I think really sort of is a chameleon in that she'll adapt to the performances around her. That's what I've always found throughout her career. And I think like when she's in a room with Bowen Yang, who is really solid, John Hamm, one of the all-time great hosts, and Kristen Wiig, just there's something about the presence and the way that they're going through the sketch that really elevates her even further. You get to see that, like, if the right circumstances are there, she's really all-time great. And I think this is a really solid sketch, Dan, to get to see Heidi Gardner in this one.
Heidi Gardner really is going to go down as one of the greats, and like I'm proud to say that I was one of those people who predicted it early on. I am not always right about that, but she never disappoints with me. And watching this secretary sketch, immediately after watching the last episode with the Mad Men sketch, it feels like two sides of the same coin, or like the same sketch in two different eras. And God, what am I trying to say? I'll end my fumbling over this by saying sketches with prop malfunctions are the best sketches.
Yeah, there's like a really fun live aspect to that where not everything went right, but it was still really great. Jeff, your thoughts on getting to see Heidi alongside Kristen here?
Yeah, I think this is a huge improvement over the first secretary sketch with Pete Davidson. Not that there was anything wrong with that sketch, but I just think that Heidi's intonation and her cadence is funnier this time around, and pairing her up with Kristen is great. And then as we've already said, John Hamm playing that boss, I mean, just works perfectly. It's so and then you get the malfunctions at the end. So this is really better than scripted. Even it's a really great sketch.
We will get a parade sketch right after this. So, Xander, you asked before about parade sketches. This is one of those that definitely hits on that mark, but it is one of my favorite parade sketches, probably my favorite parade sketch in the history of the show. And I was so excited to see them bring back the toast sketch here. It sucked not having Jason Sudeikis as the MC, but Mikey did a serviceable job. But we get a lot of the greats. We're also missing Bobby Moynihan's mic drop guy, but in comes Fred Armisen as the rock and roll shorts guy, as at least lovingly referred to as. So that's great to get Fred in there. You'll see Matt Damon and Paul Rudd there as well. Kristen Wiig brings back her Gail character, which for me, like that's the woman with the air tank, and just so funny as she's talking about the lines here. So great. Talking about it's Jerry's retirement. So she said, Jerry has been stealing our hearts and he's assaulted me with guidance, and just that turns on what he's saying, and it ultimately culminates in probably my favorite moment of season 49, which is a little bit unfair to the season itself, but just to get one more version of Hamilton Whiteman back on the show. This is Will Forte's character, who is just the salt of the earth, as we get to hear him talk about Joseph Hussein Biden and go on rants about there being death in the building. It is an all-time run that I was told, just be prepared for this moment that night, and it was an absolute classic run. Xander, so your thoughts on the retirement party sketch?
Man, I'm glad that you closed the loop on the parade question, because I guess the version of this sketch that I was initially familiar with was the one in Hugh Laurie's 2008 episode, which I consider a bit of an unsung classic. Again, Bobby Moynihan. What? But this one I was so happy to see come back. Everybody gets to shine a little bit here. Not much else to say. He killed the chinchilla. Hamilton, because of course Hamilton Whiteman killed the chinchilla. No notes. Enjoyed it. Loved it.
Yeah, so great. We got to talk about the toast sketch in the Will Ferrell season 34 finale there. So we did do some coverage of that. Jeff, your thoughts on the retirement party returning here for season 49?
Yeah, a couple things that people haven't mentioned yet. I love, it's cheap as hell, but I love Marcelo farting in the mic. That was great. And again, Matt Damon just making fun of himself. I'm Hollywood's Matt Damon from the Legend of Beggar Vance. I mean, somebody with his resume has to really kind of, stretch to come up with a dog, and he, brings up, his biggest dog, which I thought was fantastic. And yeah, then Hamilton at the end, death is in this room. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a parade sketch. It's kind of paint by numbers, but it's fantastic. Everybody does a great job with this.
I'm mad
Yeah.
that I didn't get to mention the Bagger Vance line.
That was the highlight of the sketch.
Good. It was
So
so good.
Some great stuff.
For all the flaws that movie has, it was beautifully shot. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think what I also really loved about this sketch is that, like, yes, there were the beats that we were all looking for of being like, oh, are they going to do it? Are they going to bring back Gale? Are we going to get Hamilton? Like, are we like, and you're looking for those things, but they really did incorporate the current cast very well, Bill. So I was thrilled to get the Toe sketch back here.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I was referencing that we never thought we'd see again. We'll get another one shortly hereafter, but yeah, Gale is great. Getting to see Punky and Paul Rudd work together. What were they called? Shiggles and Gits, or
Gits and Shiggles.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, this was always a favorite of mine. The fact that they kind of turned the whole Barack Hussein Obama into Joseph Hussein Biden was really funny, because they could have just went with Barack again as far as this Hamilton character. Yeah, having all these people in the building is key to that happening. I don't know, even in real time, that we were thinking that this was what we were going to get, John, but we did.
Yeah, I just got a text from one of our great producers who said, John, be ready. And I was like, I'm ready. All right, let's do this. So I was very excited to see what was going to be happening with this one. So after this, we're going to get to Weekend Update, where we're going to see, speaking of time capsules, we'll see Marcello as an earthquake and Keenan as a solar eclipse. Not too much there to talk about. There was a little bit of like a Marcello-Keenan pairing thing going on here in 49 that didn't really materialize in season 50, but certainly was a storyline then. I think the big story of Weekend Update is the return of Aunt Linda, which was a character that was an absolute favorite of mine when Kristen was a cast member on the show. It's a sketch that's a Paula Pell sketch, and she was in the building. Naturally, you saw her in the monologue, but we hadn't seen this character since season 35, episode 18. So it had been a long time, 14 years basically, since the last time we saw Aunt Linda. And just to get this character back there was amazing to me. Like, my favorite movie reviewer. I love her so much. And this was an absolute blast, Bill.
Hello, Seth. and not seeing Jane. When did you get here?
Oh, that's the best moment. The best moment.
So great. Yeah. We talked about it a few weeks ago with I think it was Harry Carey. It would have been better when Will came back if he had called the anchor Norm. But this works because she's been gone for so long. They're like 3 anchors ago. Yeah, I love this. I love her review of The Bear, thinking that it was going to be in the woods, or at least a gay guy, and yeah. Love Aunt Linda, one of the best characters. I don't know if best movie reviewer ever, John. I think Jebediah would have a word with you, but
yeah, that's fair. I'd say my favorite, but Jebediah, obviously, probably the objectively best movie reviewer in SNL history. But yeah, seriously, Aunt Linda, so fantastic to have her back, and didn't miss a beat. Like, really just had it. So the character completely nailed from many years earlier. I didn't mention Ray as the musical guest, but I just want to say, like, a complete unknown probably for most of the SNL audience prior to this episode, but afterwards, so much praise for Ray as a musical performer, and one that I think ends up being maybe one of the best musical guests in season 49. So I think that episode, the performances really do boost the episode. And then we're going to get a couple sketches post Weekend Update. The first one is this go-kart sketch. This one is James Austin Johnson opposite of Kristen Wiig. So we get to see, these two performers together, and they're with Andrew Dismukes and Chloe Trost talking about the bad thing that's going to happen before the go-karts go. So Xander, your thoughts on the go-kart sketch?
Closest this episode comes to a flub for me, unfortunately. It's funny, but it was lightly funny for me. I did like the part where they cut to Trost with the "Happy Birthday" hat on. It kind of it's a bit slightly esoteric, but and I don't have much to say about it. It doesn't bring the episode down, but not much to say about that one.
Yeah, a little bit of a weird rundown here where we get a very heavy first half of the night, but a very like low in terms of quantity of segments post weekend update bit here. And the go-kart sketch, I remember at the time just saying that like there was fun elements, the performances were good. I just really wish we as an audience found out what the bad thing was. I guess that was sort of the point of the sketch here, Jeff. I see you nodding along, but I don't know, something didn't fully click for me with this one.
I mean, it
There was
leaves you wondering. Like,
definitely. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
oh, I'm sorry. It leaves you wondering what the bad thing could be, and so I think that's a mark of a great sketch, or at least a good sketch. That you sort of like. I'd kind of like to know more about what's going on with these people. So I really, I like the escalation. I like the pan back to see the extra Chloe Trost, and it starts off with who would you swim to if we were on opposite ends of the pool. Should I start drinking again? It just gets weirder and weirder, and then it left me wanting more.
Yeah, Dan, it's an interesting piece.
There was definitely a when are we going to get to the fireworks factory element to that sketch of the bad thing happening and then not happening, which just nothing against the writers, just the way that my mind works. If there's going to be a setup, I need a payoff. Otherwise, it's all ruined for me. That's a me problem, not a them problem, but that's why I didn't enjoy this one.
Yeah, that is totally fair. The final sketch of the night is called Sonic Pioneers. It's La Maison du Bang. This is a sketch that was cut earlier in the season that they ended up bringing back for this episode. And it makes sense because this is sort of, it's a Kristen style sketch. And I really wish that the only thing I remember saying at the time was like, this was really fun. I just think it's a huge missed opportunity not to get the Triangle Sally character that we got many times with Kristen Wiig during her time here. Instead, we just get her playing like another generic character for this show. But Bill, anything on the Maison du Bang?
No, just my girl Trost singing as Coco Dubois, contracting emphysema in real time was fun. And, Keenan plays really well here too. These period pieces usually work, especially this late in the night. But yeah, that is a missed opportunity for sure, John.
Yeah, this was cut from the Chalamet episode from earlier in season 49. So
he could have done his Dylan. Oh, damn.
Damn it. I look, again, I think this is a really, really good episode. One of the best of the 2020s. The back half stuff, despite not getting the fanfare or us talking about it as highly as the stuff before it, it's still really solid. Like, it's one of those things that, yes, the quality somewhat dips, but the first half of the show, maybe minus the cold open, is just like on such a high that we don't typically get in modern times. And to me, this is a great episode of Saturday Night Live. Is it top 20? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's top 50, maybe top 40, but top 20, it feels a little bit high for me. But overall, like, I'm loving this episode. And Kristen, I'm so glad she got the recognition that she did from this. Again, one of my favorite cast members of all time and on my Mount Rushmore. So, Bill, let's get some overall thoughts on Kristen Wiig's 5-timer episode.
Yeah, the recency bias is an issue, but I think of all the ones that we've talked about from the last few years on this countdown, this one makes the most sense. It's going to be the one that, 5-10 years from now, as you said, John, this is something that we could still be talking about, could still be on a list of top. I don't think it's 20th of all time, but top 50 for sure. And, for an all-time cast member coming back like this, yeah, great episode.
Yeah, Dan, how do you feel about this episode now that we've gone through it?
I'm going to echo the sentiment that I'm not sure if it should be in the top 20. I try to look at any kind of all-time list as what does this represent in the context of the entire history. And I don't think enough time has passed to really surmise what that is. And we also haven't seen the rest of the list. But it definitely deserves to be on the list. And it's probably one of, if not the strongest episode of season 49. So I'm not mad at that it's there.
Yeah, this one I think is the one of the modern episodes we talked about that people seem most comfortable with it landing here on this list. Xander, how do you feel about it overall now that we've gone through it?
See, I don't know what my problem is because, like, we've all been talking positively about this episode. I like it. I don't even know if it's top 50 for me, which is it feels odd because I think for whatever reason, quantity of segments is a playing factor for me. I think and not that that's even a thing that should really matter if the episode is just good, but I'd say the ratio of good to great versus flat, it's closer than I might want to admit. Still, though, does it deserve to be on this countdown? I will resign myself and say that yes, it does. This high, maybe not. Another thing that helps it though, Ray gets bonus points for me. Absolutely, she was. I think we need more inspired musical guest picks like her. Neither here nor there.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely think that adds to this episode. Jeff, your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, when the list is said and done and we can see all 50 shows, I'm probably going to wish this one was a little bit lower on the list, but I can't be mad at it. I think I like the last two sketches more than everybody else did on this panel, and I would agree with Xander that bonus points for Ray. That was a really pleasant surprise for me in this episode. So, yeah, great episode.
And schedule-wise, with SNL 51 premiering on October 4th, 2 months from today, we will have an extra Monday during the summer to do a complete wrap-up of the countdown and talk about all the episodes that, almost made it and everything that we did, and really analyze the list fully for its own entire episode instead of just doing it during the final 3 reveal. So that'll be on September 22nd. We'll make sure to do that in about a month and a half from now. So inside the top 20 we go, as the final episode we will reveal tonight is at number 19, and this one definitely has it's John coded. I'll say that it is from a season that we have not covered yet so far. Probably my favorite episode from that season, though. So here we go. We're gonna go to another Christmas episode, and that's a theme we've been seeing a lot here on the countdown. And this will be the second time we'll get an episode hosted by Jimmy Fallon on the countdown here, with music from Justin Timberlake, December 21st, 2013. Season 39, episode 10. So we talked about Jimmy's first time hosting earlier in the countdown. We're going to get Jimmy's second time hosting here with JT this time. And, this is one of those episodes that I think, it's a little bit love-hate. I think there's some things here that do become pretty iconic. Obviously, Jimmy and Justin are a very big part of the 30s of Saturday Night Live, and this is sort of their swan song to having that relationship on the show. Canonically, we're going to get them at SNL 40, but still, this is a big night for that. And I'll just say personally, I was in New York City this night. I had mentioned to Bill Kenny off camera last week when I told him about this episode. I was in NBC doing an NBC studio tour. This is before I've ever attended the show, when I went to go there that day and saw them rehearsing. And I just have a lot of really fond memories of this episode, watching it with a bunch of friends and getting so excited for the things that were happening here. So I think if you were really bought into them and their roles in SNL history, this is a great episode for you. So Bill, your thoughts on it arriving here at number 19?
John, how many votes did you get on this countdown? Let's start there. Oh my goodness, John. I got to be careful because this whole storyline of me hating Fallon and all that stuff. That this is not a great episode. There's a lot of great sketches. There's a lot of really great moments. But this isn't even as good as his season 37. Going back and watching this from beginning to end, there are a couple duds in here, and my rule, no duds. So we get the last of a couple of recurring sketches that we don't really get a lot after this or ever. So I don't know. There's something about this that feels very tired. I love seeing Timberlake, as you know. I don't think this is his best performance either. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this. I'm not angry at this like I was with like Gosling or Lohan, but this feels way, way too high. And the nostalgia of Christmas, Fallon and Timberlake seems to have made this perfect storm of let's throw it in the top 20.
I think you're way too harsh on this. That's unbelievably harsh. First of all, there's one major dud in this episode. I think, like, without a doubt, everyone can completely agree that there's one dud, and we'll get to it and we'll talk about it briefly. But beyond that, like everything here is really solid. And I disagree. Like I think this episode is really important for the, telling the story of the show. And I think just Jimmy is such a great host and naturally gifted at getting other cast members involved. It's not like a complete parade of like people from Jimmy's eras in the way that his first episode was. And yes, I agree. I personally do prefer a season 37 hosted episode, but this is an episode that definitely deserves consideration for the top 50. I think to say that it doesn't come close is not right here. So Dan, your thoughts on it?
I don't like Jimmy Fallon. I think he's, generally speaking, the worst part about everything he's involved in. I mean, but being objective about it and realizing that comedy is based on preference, like there is an iconic sketch in this episode. The fact that I didn't remember that Fallon was a part of it, well, I'll get to that later. There's a recurring that I really enjoyed, but it's the worst version of that recurring sketch in my eyes. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it and I'm glad to be here, but like, man, shout out to Sunflower Donut. There's too much Jimmy Fallon in this. That's what they said in the comments.
It's a Jimmy Fallon hosted episode. I mean,
I know. See the predicament I'm in, John?
Yeah, well, look, and I am not trying to change your mind. Obviously, you didn't know what episodes you'd be talking about when you signed up for this. So if you don't like Jimmy, that's totally fine. However, I will just say, like, objectively, I think there's like a lot of really good sketches in this. But anyways, Xander, let me get your thoughts on it.
I agree with you. I'm just pointing out what I think the weakest spot of every one of them is. That's all I was doing.
That's fine. That's fine. Xander, your thoughts?
In the pantheon of SNL Christmas shows, I think this dances between Martin Short and George Foreman constantly. I think that it is, I don't hate it. I don't even dislike it. And the SNL Christmas show is an important show. Like if you don't nail that, like it kind of just like it for fans at least, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I'm not going to talk about Martin Short's episode from last year. But I will echo everyone else's sentiments, or whoever else said it. Sorry. There is one classic in this, at least. There are other strong moments, and I agree with John that it is integral to the history of the show, because there is a passing of the torch of sorts that we'll get to. If this landing this high, and if I don't see certain other Christmas shows higher, that's going to burn me a little bit, but I'll expound on that later.
Yeah, that's a fair statement for sure. I definitely don't think this is the greatest Christmas episode in the history of the show. I definitely would put the other Fallon episode above this one. I just think this has a argument for top 50. I will say, watching this live, knowing that season 39 is a rough season for the show, they hire all of these new cast members, most of whom don't work out. They're going to keep Beck and Kyle. Fred and Jason and Bill are all gone from the show. The identity of the show is certainly in flux. It doesn't feel like the show that I grew up on. And I'm watching it and I'm seeing that Jimmy and Justin are going to be on at Christmas. And as somebody who, again, like was in high school for season 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, like that for me, like there could not be more excitement for this episode. So it is the nostalgia feeling. This one is for the fans of the third golden era to have this moment of getting Jimmy and Justin back on the show together and having some fun here. Jeff, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm kind of relieved that I'm not the only one that's sort of, to use Bill's phrase from last week, the ants at the picnic, because I would go so far as to say that in the countdown as it exists right now, this is the first episode that I would say is not even a good episode. Like, I forget top 50. I would say this is not even a good episode. So I'm not a fan of this particular one. So
okay,
it'd be interesting to talk about it.
All right. Well, like I said, I think
poor John.
No, don't pour me. I'm fine. I wasn't in one sketch.
John, you voted 40 times for no reason.
First of all,
you just like him because you interviewed him.
Yeah, that's not true. Okay, I wasn't in one sketch in this episode. I will say I like Jimmy's first episode more. I like probably every one of Justin's episodes more than this one, maybe barring the 38. But I really think that this one has some good stuff in it. So I would not say this is not a great episode, but I think it is a polarizing episode. I could see it in the chat right away when we brought this one up. Like, people are like, oh my God, love this episode. Other people are like, this one isn't for me. And that's the thing, is like, that's what creates something interesting, where it probably averages out to an even episode because it's so love-hate, and probably shouldn't be on this countdown because of that. But because there's just so many people who ride hard for these guys, that's what makes sense here. And we're going to open up this episode with the Vil sketch that you would expect if Justin was hosting. So we didn't know we were going to get it with Jimmy hosting, but we get Jimmy and Justin doing sort of like their history of rap that they were doing on late night together when Jimmy was the host of that show, alongside 80. And this is a cold open that, again, this is super fun. I always love these sketches, but this one is mostly remembered for the fact that there is a screaming Justin Timberlake fan interrupting the sketch to the point where 80 actually has to acknowledge that person during the sketch. And it reminds me of that time earlier in the countdown where we saw Fallon on Update talk to the audience member. But like, one of the rare times in the history of the show where a sketch gets interrupted and 80 yells yo, and then later on yells holy moly as someone is screaming Timberlake's name. So Bill, like, that is probably more iconic for that reason.
Yeah, if I could say anything about this episode, I think this is where I fell in love with 80. I think her finding a way, because it was just too noticeable. It's not something you could have just continued to ignore. And she's only on the show for her second season at this point. So she's still kind of, and she handles it like a pro, like tries to work it into her talking. As you said, she says those two things. I'm okay with the Vils. I didn't ever really hate these. And I think this makes sense if you're going to have Justin in the building, especially at Christmas time, that you're going to do this, even though he had just done one, 6 months earlier? Like, when did he host last? He had hosted in 38. So
March.
Yeah. So it's only been a few months since we've seen the last Vil, but this is the last time we get this. I think the Someone That I Used to Know is probably the best part of this, where they kind of mimic Gautier with that video. But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I could describe this feeling that I just know I was feeling personally watching this episode live, but there was the feeling of like watching your favorite dramatic TV series, knowing that it's like the last season and being like, is this the last time I'm going to see this character on screen? Like, that is what it felt like watching this Vil sketch, of like being like, I may never see this again. And like later on with Barry Gibb, same thing. So Dan, your thoughts on the cold open here?
I do love the Vil sketches. I will give this episode that. The Vil sketches are like, it's like when you're looking forward to like a Weird Al polka medley. Like, the concept is exactly the same. It's all about the songs that he puts in it and the like sequence in which it happens and the way it sounds coming out of his mouth. Like, it's a fail-safe. I'm not a hard man to please. It's a fail-safe sketch in my opinion. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's fair. The monologue here is one that is very different from the first time that Jimmy hosts, where you get this sort of epic monologue where the whole cast and running around the studio. This time it's Jimmy with a bunch of microphones. It feels like a Tonight Show bit where he's going to go from microphone to microphone doing imitations of Paul McCartney and Bob Dylan and David Bowie. And then, which is, in retrospect, interesting when we're going to get the famous, Bowie tribute monologue from the next time he's going to host in season 42. But here we're actually going to have Paul McCartney for Christmas come alongside Jimmy and start singing for the monologue here. Xander, did you like this monologue we got?
Well, first of all, I'll give kudos to Fallon's Bowie. I think that's a genuinely good impression. And for someone who I guess initially became known for his impressions, I don't think they're all stellar. But yeah, I mean, like, this is an all right monologue, a charmologue, even, if you will. That's probably not what that means, but just getting to see, it's nice to see like Jimmy doing on the host stage on home base. Really the first thing that he did as we, the audience, were getting to know him, which was that he was the cute guy on Update with his acoustic guitar. Not much else to say. Walk On from McCartney is cool. Yeah, I mean, the conceit is very simply just impression. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's a lot here. I think the Family Feud Celebrity Edition sketch post monologue is one that a lot of people do remember. And we have this great job by Matt, one of our producers, who put a great screen cap of an empty podium here, which is the moment that most people do remember from this Family Feud celebrity sketch. So this was at a time where, we get Keenan as Steve Harvey, and we're going to get stars of CBS versus NBC's. We're going to meet a lot of our cast members doing different impressions. One of the most memorable is, Brooks Wheelan, who will be playing himself, somebody who most people don't even remember as a cast member. But Jimmy Fallon is going to play Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory on the CBS team, and we're going to get Justin Timberlake in a sketch playing Jimmy Fallon on the NBC team, who's doing these impressions of Jimmy. And I think the Jimmy Fallon impression is one that now I think people do a lot, but at the time, I don't know that it was as popularized as it would go on to be. And I think that Justin's impression ultimately became like the Jimmy Fallon impression, but the so good, so great. Am I right, man? Like all that stuff that he was doing. I think that everyone did that after. And it was so funny to Fallon that he ends up breaking, of course, and, falls down the podium. And we get this great shot from Don Roy King showing off the empty podium in this sketch. Jeff, how did this one play for you on a rewatch?
Yeah, I think Justin's Fallon is hilarious. It's by far the highlight of the sketch. I think other than that, Fallon's pretty good as Jim Parsons. The Allison Noel Wells as Allison Hannigan doesn't do anything for me, and I even forgot who plays John Cryer. That didn't do anything for me either. So
John Melheiser.
Yeah, thank you. Not a lot for me, but other than the back and forth between Fallon and Timberlake, which I will admit is a lot of fun in this sketch.
Yeah, I think you really have to be sort of buy into the romance a little bit to get how funny the relationship is. But Justin's impression of Jimmy is to me something I'll always remember, Bill. So how did it feel to revisit it?
Yeah, I mein, there's some good impressions here. I think Taron does a great Ashton Kutcher, especially 2013 Ashton Kutcher. Other than that, Milheiser, oh my God, that poor guy. This is such a terrible impression. This is otherworldly bad impression here. I didn't even know who he was playing until we get to the actual name drop. But yeah, the Fallon and Timberlake back and forth is fun. And I think Fallon, for all his faults, he is a great impressionist, maybe underrated. And I think he does a good Jim Parsons here.
Yeah, he definitely does. So I'd enjoy this. I think Kate's Jane Lynch also has some funny stuff to it as well. But I'm glad that they let some of the rookies play here. Again, this is a time where we're halfway through season 39, 10 episodes in, really not seeing a lot from these rookies. It is just something that we're oh my God, this show is on life support with the new cast coming in. So it was good that they gave them a chance here, and ultimately we would not see a success story for a lot of them. But yeah, just some fun stuff here. Dan, your thoughts on the celebrity edition from Family Feud?
I think I've actually said it on this very network before. Keenan's Steve Harvey impression radiates happiness, and it elevates whatever sketch it's in. So we started there. I didn't realize that this sketch was kind of the catalyst for the widely internet approved impression of Jimmy Fallon that everybody does. It's hitting me now and kind of blowing my mind. I thought Jimmy as Jim Parsons was fine. Not a fan of either of them, but it's technically proficient, and I give credit where it's due. But yeah, Family Feud, it's a serviceable go-to, and I did enjoy the breaking moment as it happened for the first time.
So next up, we're going to get probably the most iconic sketch from this episode that is really not a Fallon-centric sketch. This is Do It on My Twin Bed. And this is, we're in season 39. We're now getting into this new era. And this was the biggest storyline of the episode of okay, are we ready for the women to take over the show? We're already seeing that Kate and Cecily and 80 are starting to make their mark and really become something. But what do we have here? And I think that this laid such an impression. It was almost, I'll say, lazy Sunday-esque, that we went on a big break after this, and this was the only thing that people were talking about until the show returned in 2014. So just an iconic sketch here. Bill would do it on my twin bed.
Yeah, this was a symbolic passing of the torch for the women taking over SNL. Obviously, the triumvirate of 80, Kate, Cecily, but these other women are fantastic as well. And a sketch that you could not have done even 10 years earlier with the lack of women on SNL. I think this is great. Noelle Wells. I love her. I think she got underused more than almost everybody in this season 39 overhaul. And she's turned out to have a nice little career. So I'm really appreciative when I can see her in something like this. She holds her own with these heavyweights. And yeah, I mean, this is, the seventh grade pictures really bring it home. Jimmy with that high school stash, still hilarious. But yeah, this and how many of these did we get? Like, we got so many of these in the upcoming years. The start of Little Baby 80 and of the whole thing with Gene.
Yeah, so good. And I think, me 12 years ago would have probably been like, oh man, like they couldn't get Justin Timberlake in here, but I'm so okay with it. And like, maturing through my SNL knowledge now, like I recognize how important this sketch was for the passing of the torch, and how it didn't need to be about anybody else besides these women, growing in their roles on the show. And I think it was so nice, like you said, to have that moment of like going back to their high school days and just getting to know a cast that truly we didn't really get to know when we had all of these other iconic cast members there for the previous years. Jeff, your thoughts on revisiting Do It on My Twin Bed?
Yeah, I think 2/3 of it is fantastic. I love the when the women are center stage. I'm not a fan of the Jimmy Fallon rap. I think it's just, here comes Fallon to sort of do some sweat work and kind of make it all about him, which I don't like. And I think the seventh grade photos are kind of an easy way to get some cheap applause. I'm sorry, but I love the thing with Gene. I love the cat throwing up. I love the uncle or whoever's sleeping on the trundle bed. I mean, there's just a lot of great elements in that first 2/3 of it. I could have done, like I said, I could have done without the rest of it, but yeah, it's a great showcase for the women of the show for sure.
Yeah, and beyond the whole meta aspect of it, the song itself is like an absolute banger. Like, it's a great song. It is a very funny premise of people going home, to their, childhood bedrooms and trying to find a way to fornicate. And it is just it is a great time. So Xander, your thoughts on this one?
John, I just want to say how proud I am of you for putting aside your love for Justin Timberlake in the name of feminism.
Thank you.
But other than that,
That's me.
I mean, yeah, this is a classic. This is one I knew like even before I was a huge fan. It's interesting to note that the pairing of Cecily and Mike O'Brien was a real one, and not just for the sketch. It's inconsequential, but adds something to it for me. That aside, this is my old christening dress, and here's my X-Files on VHS. Just like I tip my cap, and the whole thing's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's a really fun anecdote too, as well. Dan, I will also go to you for Do It on My Twin Bed thoughts.
It's a classic. Like there's nothing that I can truly say about it that hasn't already been said. Maybe one day Apple Music will release a compilation of all the songs from you girls, that Back Home Ballers, First Got Horny to You. I know I'm missing some other ones, but like I want the album. I'd buy it on vinyl. This was a great track one.
Yeah, I will also say, for anyone out there who, I know I understand Jeff's critique, but for anyone out there who maybe doesn't love the Fallon of it all of this episode, like, don't let that bring down the quality of this sketch. To me, this is one of the iconic sketches in SNL history, and one that you have to talk about. And I know we didn't start with this one, but I wanted to tell the story of the episode. And Yeah, for me, just a really great one. Next up, we got the Barry Gibb talk show, which is returning here. So some more Jimmy and Justin, and this is just has all the tropes of a Barry Gibb talk show, except it really will end with the moment that most people will remember, which is the real Barry Gibb showing up to sing so beautifully in the background of Jimmy and Justin. So there are other Barry Gibb talk shows for me that are just hilarious and fun. This one with Madonna doesn't really like add anything too crazy, but just that moment at the end, Bill, very exciting stuff.
Great, and I like the Madonna of it all, because like talk about an SNL career that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, she's only been musical guest once, iconic for the last 40 years in various forms.
She did host.
She did host, right? But like her other cameos, like Coffee Talk, opening season 12, the Wayne's World dream sequence, like those are huge cameos. So she seems to parse herself out pretty well, even though she's not the main part of this sketch. I think she does a really good job here. But yeah, the Barry Gibb of it all is really the key.
Yeah, and I think Madonna and Justin Timberlake have a good friendship. They did that song 4 minutes together, so there's that connection as well. Xander, how did you feel about the Barry Gibb talk show here?
So Barry Gibb talk show is like a family favorite. Like, this is one that I would see. This is one that we would always pull up if we wanted to just watch some SNL. I like it. This rendition doesn't do much for me. It's cool that Madonna's there. I think she kind of dampens the sketch for me, honestly. The whole like no yes thing just it took me out of something that I admittedly was not in much to begin with. But I think in an otherwise like middling Gibb talk show for me, I think having the real Barry Gibb there was something that I sought to find when I learned about it. And when I finally found the sketch, just those pipes, man, you can't mistake them. You cannot mistake them.
Yeah, it is something that I think was really, really cool to get that. And you get that moment and you're like, okay, maybe with that will sort of, put a conclusion to the Barry Gibb talk show. Of course, we will get it again in season 49. But still, it is one of those things that's like, okay, now that we got Barry Gibb on there, and I think Robin Gibb had passed away the year prior to this. But yeah, this is a nice moment here to have Barry Gibb talk show. And I think the energy is always incredible when they open up this sketch. Justin Timberlake's going to perform here. I will say Justin's had a lot of incredible performance on Saturday Night Live. This one to me was just like, okay, he's performing songs from the 2020 Experience Part 2. It's decent stuff. I wouldn't say it's very Christmassy. It's very, it's very Justin in this current era. So let's go to Weekend Update. Let's talk about what we saw on Weekend Update, where we're going to get Kate McKinnon as the first correspondent, coming on as Billie Jean King, a 70-year-old Billie Jean King, talking about the 2014 Sochi Olympics coming up and her impressions of, what they're allowing to do there and what's gay and not gay. So Jeff, I'll ask you anything on Kate's impression of Billie Jean King.
No, I mean, it's fine. I kind of actually wanted to go back to the Barry Gibb talk show for a second. What was the deal with what was the deal with Madonna pulling out? Was that fake teeth that she pulled out and then put them in, and that didn't seem to really work or get over?
Yeah, I think she was doing this whole like grill thing at the time, if I remember correctly, and I think like it was maybe an ode to that, but I don't know that maybe someone in the chat has like more of a better idea. But it also played a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, kind of brought the sketch to a little bit of a halt. But yeah, I mean, Kate's great. Here's Billie Jean King. I don't think there's anything. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think it's funny, but it didn't do a whole lot for me.
Yeah. And then Jimmy's going to come on with Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who are both having some big changes coming up in 2014. Seth is on his way out. It is interesting to see Seth and Cecily together. The first pairing we got of them. I don't know if we're going to get another one here on the countdown, but Seth and Cecily during their brief run as co-anchors. Seth going to be replacing Jimmy on Late Night. Jimmy going to be replacing Jay Leno on The Tonight Show, and Michael Bloomberg on his way out as mayor, and the comparisons between the two of them. I think Bloomberg has an absolute killer line here with just talking about his emotions and just with completely stone faced. So there is some okay things here. Bill, your thoughts on this moment and update in general?
Yeah, his line about drinking a small soda on a non-smoking beach is hilarious. As somebody who tried to ban soda in New York City in too big of a cup. Other than that, I think Cecily is so great at the desk. I know a lot of it was her choice to leave because she wasn't getting to do as many characters, getting to be in as many sketches. But she could have been an all-time Weekend Update anchor. Like, she is just fantastic here. There's nothing bad to say about her. And John, our streak never ends.
I knew you were going to say something.
The Orange Menace is running for New York governor because if he's not in the public eye, he'll die. Oh boy. Well, we can't get away from him no matter what frickin' season we're in.
So that's all it takes for it to happen.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no. All right. Well, moving on from Weekend Update. The following sketch is the Waking Up with Kimye sketch. We're going to get Nassim Pedrad and Jay Farrow as Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. This is the second of, I think, 3 of these that they're going to do this season. Nassim always just slays me as Kim, and obviously Jay does a great Kanye. So, Dan, your thoughts on seeing this sketch?
I don't care what anyone says. I love this recurring sketch. My favorite is the first one. Maybe like a month ago, my daughter made a bracelet out of like some kind of it was out some kind of like rice pasta thing, and I legit yelled, "Food is jewelry now, huh?" She didn't get the reference, but I got the reference. So it's probably the weakest iteration of it. Wasn't big on the Bound 2 parody just because I think Seth Rogen and God, what was his name? Did like shot for shot parody of that same video like right beforehand, and this seemed weaker to me. But you know, Nassim Pedrad is an absolute light in this life, and Jay Farrow is great at everything he does too. So I'm not mad at this.
Yeah, so Seth Rogen and James Franco did one around this time, and but I also say this Bound 2 parody totally worked for me. I laughed so hard in the real time at the like almost pornographic version of the Bound 2 thing that they were doing here. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe that they were showing this with Nassim and Jay. It was very, very funny. For
the
me,
real videos that way.
I know, but it was just like the SNL version. Like, I thought they would go in a different direction, but it was just like the faces and everything was happening here. It was very, it was kind of crazy. And, following that sketch, we get, we got the Michael Bublé and Fallon music parade sketch in the first time, but this time we're going to get a Now That's What I Call Christmas. It's a sequel to that sketch where we're going to see a lot of impressions here. So, Jimmy Fallon's going to play Alan Rickman and Harry Styles, Michael Bublé and Pitbull, and you're going to get Kate as Lord and Shakira, Bobby is Andrea Bocelli, Jay Farrow plays DMX, Cecily does some Alanis Morissette, Bill Heiser, Billy Joe Armstrong. We're going to get some Axl Rose and Slash from Kyle Mooney and Brooks Wheelan, and then Noelle Wells plays Zooey Deschanel in this one. So an opportunity for the cast to show off their musical chops here. Jeff, anything appeal to you?
I mean, we've seen these sketches before. I don't think there was anything particularly notable for me in this sketch. So sorry, I'll keep it brief.
No problem. Xander, what about you? Anything stand out to you among these impressions?
Now here's a parade sketch. Some of these impressions are good. Some of these impressions are horse shit. Lord doesn't sound like that. Lord does not sound like that. I know it was 2013. I'm not backing off this. I guess I got a kick out of Jay Farrow's DMX, of course. Cecily, as I'm sure anyone could surmise, has an Alanis Morissette in her back pocket. Yeah, I know. Sorry. Yeah, not much else. It's all right. Some good, some bad. Moving on. Next.
Okay. Dan, go ahead.
I do want to point out what Andrew pointed out in the comments is that the real DMX after the sketch did wind up doing his own version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You can check it out on YouTube. I post it to my Facebook every holiday season.
All right, amazing. Bill, anything for you stand out with the impressions?
Yeah, I mean, Randy from South Park did a better Lord. Lord, 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 Lordy, Lord, Lord. Yeah, there's some really bad ones here. We get 2 impression parades in the same episode, and it's really a mixed bag with how I think poor Millheiser, man. This guy, I want to see this guy do something else because I think he had talent, but boy, he should not have been doing impressions. His Billy Joe Armstrong is horrendous. But yeah, other than I think Noelle, again, great Zoe Deschanel. I think Abby did it a little bit better, but it's pretty good. And Bobby, our boy Bobby doing Bocelli as what was it? I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. So yeah, pretty good. But I think the first one was better.
Yeah, because the show didn't really feel so Christmassy before this. I know that there was like Rappinville and Do It on My Twin Bed was going home, but like it didn't necessarily have that like overwhelming Christmas spirits that we get from some other ones. So in a way that there was some fun stuff here, but it's going to get super Christmassy towards the end, as we're going to get the next sketch, A Christmas Carol, which is essentially Scrooge going back in time to realize that he was gay. And this is like a negative 10 out of 10 sketch. It is the worst sketch that is existed on this entire countdown of the 50 episodes. And I cannot even like justify it. I will say it is so bad and so stupid, but not in a good way, that I don't know how much attention we should even give to it. But again, I can understand why this one would totally tear down your opinion of this episode. Bill, is there anything that you would like to say about it?
I cannot believe this got on the air in 2013. If we were talking about a 1988 episode, you'd still have to apologize for how cringy and, it's just so terrible. The sketch itself isn't funny. And just this whole thing about being gay is just so bad in this. I cannot believe this was only 12 years ago.
Yeah, and like again, like here at the like we could take a joke, like there are things that, but like
Yeah.
it's not about that. It's just like there's nothing here comedic besides the fact that he has to like realize that he's gay, and like Jimmy's doing like a very effeminate voice, and then eventually we're gonna get like a big buff dude that grows to Christmas present, and he's gonna be like, okay, and now I'll go off with him. Like there's just like nothing here, and it is a complete dud. So I will not defend that, and I will say that it certainly does bring down the quality of this episode. But Bill, you said that there was 2 duds. Are you claiming that Baby It's Cold Outside is a dud?
Oh no.
Okay, what was the other one?
You didn't come to me. I think the Kimye is very weak here.
No. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Because I thought you were going to say
Nassim is great in that. I think this is, Jay does a great Kanye, but he leans way too much into the whole it takes away from me. I think that one's the other dud for me.
Okay, right. Because I was going to say the Baby It's Cold Outside sketch is really great.
Yes.
Jimmy and Cecily as a pairing are fantastic. The premise here really works, where traditionally they're singing The Baby It's Cold Outside. They're going to flash to 12 minutes later. And after they end up, she ends up staying, like he wants to leave, but then so they do the whole flip on it and continue the song. And it is performed on home base in a way that is really like torn down the veil of like SNL with a proper set. Like he's just like a window in the background. And I think there's something like really beautiful about the way that they put together this sketch. And it is one of my favorite moments of this episode. So as bad as A Christmas Carol was, I think it's as good as Baby It's Cold Outside here. Jeff, am I on par here with being able to defend this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is cute enough. It's a good bounce back from the Christmas Carol sketch. I do like that. They bring Keenan in as the friend, trying to help him get out of the situation. I think it's well written. It's cute. I think, but the Christmas Carol sketch, and for me, the other 2 sketches before that, I was a little bit zoning out by this point in the episode, unfortunately.
Yeah, I could understand that, but this for me is a major rebound. Xander, anything for you on this one? Baby It's Cold Outside.
I'm not going to dogpile on A Christmas Carol. I think during one of my watches for this episode, I think I might have actually fallen asleep right around this time. Don't kill me now. But this sketch, it's it's sweet. It's a fun twist of the IP. It ends like so sweetly. I'm like, are Jimmy and Cecily like about to make out like for real? Like,
Yeah, how did Michael Bryan feel about this sketch?
Yeah, well, who cares what Mike O'Brien thinks? But it's a decent way to finish it off, especially considering that we don't get a 10-1. I think like okay, like we close the book on something for the kids.
Okay, I agree. Dan, your thoughts on this final sketch here, Baby It's Cold Outside?
It's actually my second favorite sketch of the night, and
My
I
man.
think it should have been earlier in the show. Like I think it's weird that this was the 10-1 for me. And I thought the premise was great. It's not the most inventive thing out there, but I thought it was executed very well. Keenan coming in as the friend, like Jeff said, was a very strong add-on. And in case anyone was asking, I did not bail from this episode because you guys were talking about A Christmas Carol. My internet really did come out.
Yeah, sure. But it is interesting, the question of like, where do you place a sketch like this? It's probably one of the hardest things to do as an SNL producer, of like finding the right moment to put a sketch that's really well written and beautifully produced, but sort of is like a little bit sleepy. So you have to buy in and be excited about it. And if you can't make it to the end of the show, you probably missed this great moment. And that's why oftentimes the end of the show is like exciting, either with a great musical performance or something that's like kind of silly. But here they decide to do something more beautiful. And it does go into what I think is a very beautiful performance of Pair of Wings, which is like a very obscure Justin Timberlake song. But still, it's like a very nice way to end the episode here if you do enjoy what you saw. So I'm going to put on my blindfolds and cover my eyes and just say overall thoughts on this one, fellas. Bill, I'll start with you.
Boy, oh boy. I don't know. Like, could you get a pass for this if it wasn't for Christmas Carol? No, I don't think so, because I think it's way too uneven to be the 19th best episode out of 988. Like, there's just no way. I think the nostalgia of Fallon and Timberlake combined with Christmas, combined with knowing what we now know, that this is the last time JT appears on the show for 11 years, it all kind of culminates with people kind of remembering it a little bit differently. But there are some really great moments, as we've talked about. Do It on My Two in Bed and Baby It's Cold Outside are all timers for sure. But yeah, this doesn't make my top 50.
Okay, Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have the same Jimmy Fallon hatred notwithstanding. I'm going to put that aside. I have the same problem with this episode that, Bill, I think you did with the Ryan Gosling episode. People remember it fondly because of Do It for My Twin Bed, the same way they remember Gosling for Beavis and Butthead. Like, one sketch is not the episode. If you look at it, there are way better Christmas episodes that could be number 19. There are better Timberlake appearances. There are better Fallon hosting outings. I will say that. It's like, I don't understand why this is there. This is probably the most confused I am about a placement on the list up to this point.
Yeah, I agree with all the above except for the confusion. Like, for me, I do think that just, again, if you're telling the story of the series, I think this episode has an important place in it. I do think that there are good to some great sketches in here. Is it top 50 of all time? Probably not. But I definitely see like why people really love this episode. I think, it just depends how you define greatest, right? Some people vote for their favorites versus what they think is the all-time greatest. And I could see why this is a favorite episode for a lot of people. Xander, let me get your final thoughts on it.
So this episode fucking sucks. No, it's okay.
You're just really using your whole swear bank, aren't you?
And you know
He's
what?
been waiting to drop that for 2.5 hours.
I would like to pat myself on the back for my restraint. Anyway, like one absolute bottoming out aside, does this get over for me? Honestly, not really. It's like, it's not a bad episode. I can't call it bad. It's got a few things dragging it down, and I think to not only have it in the top 50, but in the top 20 is John, God love you. It's disingenuous. Like, I think this is just like you control F, like, okay, we're going to start the vote. What are the best episodes? I would genuinely like to know if anyone who voted just control F'd Justin Timberlake. I was like, okay, well, don't forget about that one. Do not forget about that one. If you forget about that one, I swear to God. No, it doesn't get over for me. It's not bad, not stellar.
Yeah.
If the Dakota Johnson episode is like later on the list, you might be right.
Yeah, I will say that it's not. But Jeff, I would love to know from you your final thoughts on this one.
Well, like a lot of the other episodes on this list, there's just not enough Tony Rosato. No, really, I think that I would love to see an alternate list. Like if there was I'm not saying you should have done it this way because I don't think that, but I would like to see a list where every host, there's a limit of one show per host. I'd be really curious to see what that list would look like. I do think the other Jimmy Fallon episode that we have on this list is far superior. And so I'm confused as to why this one's higher than that one. But yeah, I just don't, I think there's great moments. I don't think that outside of Dude on My Twin Bed, I don't think there's any great sketches. I think, there's some fun in the Family Feud sketch. I think there's some fun in the Barry Gibb talk show. But it just doesn't make a great episode. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the truth is like if we were gonna do that list, Jeff, this episode would be the episode that would make it because it's the highest Jimmy Fallon episode on the list. And
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and I do think that the other one that we talked about is better. So I would also agree with that. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. It's like we got to take the totality of the SNL fandom, and we're just one segment of them. But of course, love the debate, love the passion and the back and forth on it. And of course, it was great to talk through so many interesting episodes here tonight. So our final segment here tonight is that we will do the interesting task of Bill and I revealing where we place these episodes in our rankings. So Bill, I'm going to put them up on screen and I want you to tell the listeners how you place these, and then we'll get the entire panel's opinion on who's doing better on our personal rankings so far or not. So I'm going to put those up for everybody to take a look at. And Bill, I'll have you go first. Our episode rankings are on the left, mine are in the middle, and then yours are on the right. So go ahead.
Yeah, I put Fallon at number 28 here, just ahead of Anne Hathaway. And after talking through with these fine gentlemen, I might put it even lower. After that, my top 10 would be Carlin at 10, Sigourney Weaver number 9. Here I slide in Kristen Wiig, even though it's a fantastic episode. I feel like it might be a little bit too soon to put it any higher than that. Rickles at 7, Peyton at 6, Tom Hanks season 16 at number 5, and then I put Hamm here at number 4, right behind Will Ferrell, Alec Baldwin, and Tom Hanks. My top 3 doesn't change.
Yeah, so funny enough, I also had Fallon at 28. I know we just have a little bit of differentiating there. I actually, funny enough about Hathaway, I was thinking about that episode a little bit, and in retrospect, knowing what we got with John Hamm and thinking about that time at the show, I was like, I think I was a little bit hard on the Hathaway episode. I think it's better than I thought. So I actually moved her up a little bit on my list since then. But yeah, I only have Jimmy's episode from season 39 ahead of Gosling, Jack Black, Michael Jordan, and Lindsay Lohan. So, I mean, just being as much of a Fallon fan as I am, and as much as I love moments from this episode, I am being objective that it is near the bottom of our current list and maybe wouldn't necessarily make my top 50, though it is something, there's a lot of things I am nostalgic about it and enjoy here. The Kristen Wiig episode ended up at number 7 for me. So I know it says 39 on the list here, but I'll change that next week for 49 because obviously that's a recent episode. But that one for me, again, rewatching it just like hits as hard as it did back then. It was just so great. And I think it's totally deserving of being in its place where it is, maybe slightly lower on the list, but right now I have it at 7, just ahead of my 8 is Tom Hanks from 16, my 9 is Sigourney Weaver from 12, and my 10 is Christopher Walken from 18. And then ahead of Kristen Wiig, I got Will Ferrell at 34 from 34, then Peyton Manning 32, Don Rickles at from season 9 is at 4. My top 3 right now, I have Alec Baldwin in season 15. I put John Hamm's episode at number 2 so far at season 34. I think that John Hamm episode, the first John Hamm and the first Baldwin, are very comparable episodes, like all-time first hosting gigs. I think the Hamm episode might be slightly more iconic and more interesting in terms of greatness. Like maybe Baldwin's is the best one, but Hamm's might be the greatest one. And that's maybe what put it over the edge for me. Still behind Tom Hanks's premiere though from season 14, which I think encompasses everything I'm looking for from an SNL episode. So it'll be interesting to see what comes ahead of it and if anything can top it. So let's go around the panel and get some overall thoughts. Dan, which list are you feeling better about?
I love that Tom Hanks season 14 is the number 1 for 2 of you guys. If I really had to,
yeah, which one would you say?
Bill's is probably a little closer to my own.
Okay, all right, that's one. Go ahead.
But I would have to look at this for longer than the show would allow to really give an
No
assessment. But I look forward to seeing this with everything intact.
Sounds good. Jeff, let me ask you, which list are you feeling better about right now?
Yeah, I mean, both lists. There I am. Both lists are pretty similar. I'm gonna have to probably go with Bill. He's got the Patrick Swayze episode higher, and I think that's a great episode. Kind of in my wheelhouse when I was in high school. And as much as I love the John Hamm episode that we just talked about, I like it better at 4 than at 2. And Bill's got the Charles Grodin episode a little bit higher, and that's a favorite of mine. So we're nitpicking here, but I guess I'll give the nod to Bill. Sorry, John.
Okay, no worries. Fair enough. Xander, whose side are you on?
John, I'll give you this one. I think we've got a long, fruitful friendship ahead of us, and this list is proof. Bill, respect. I appreciate that you've got the Hamm episode as high as you do. Also, I am more keen on that Jack Black episode than it would seem that John is in comparison. So I'll give Bill that. But I mean, you got the Sudeikis episode like just outside the top 20 for me, which again, I don't know what it is. I'm really into that one. You've got the Anne Hathaway episode higher, which I think is in a championship season, as Lauren himself would put it, a bit of an unsung classic, or close to it at least. And yeah, not much else to say. I think, John, I'm with you just a little bit more. Sorry, Bill, please don't hate me.
It's all good,
The
man.
fact that you two have very differing opinions of Jimmy Fallon, but the episode we just discussed fall on number 28 on both of your lists is very interesting to me.
Yeah, that is funny the way that did work out. I mean, I could justify where, like, I think if we were doing the full all-time list, Bill and I were ranking every episode, Fallon's probably ends up higher on my list than Bill's list. But just out of the ones so far, I think we could both agree it's closer to the bottom of the ones that we've talked about so far. I just think overall, in totality with the history of the show, it is a better episode than Bill maybe thinks so. Would you say that, Bill?
It's probably true, yeah. But it is funny to see how low you have it here after everything that you seem to have suffered through tonight talking about.
Yeah, because again, I don't think even the Gosling episode I was able to defend. The Jack Black episode I was able to defend. The Michael Jordan, Lindsay Lohans are the only ones so far on this list that I would sort of take the Jeff route of saying like these are bad episodes in my opinion. And Jordan is like a controversial one because a lot of people love that one. But like, I don't think that this is a bad episode. I just talking like, the real top 50 for me probably starts somewhere around William Shatner's episode, which is 19 currently on my list. So everything else below there probably is like borderline top 50 and then going further down. But of course, we're not doing that exercise here tonight.
And to be fair, like, listen, if you're a fan of this Fallon episode or any of the other ones that we have lower on the list, I mean, to be in the top 50 of something that has had almost 1,000 episodes, if we're saying it's top 100 or top 150, that's still pretty damn good. So like, I'm not saying Fallon would be like 987 or anything like that, but this, it's still a good episode, but just not compared to these other ones.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about Bill's predictions, our final segment here of the night. So, for as far as 5-timers are concerned, Bill adds another one to the list with Kristen Wiig hosting an episode here. No new premieres to talk about or finales. We do get 2 more cast member appearances. Now, Bill, you're up to 7 out of 13 for cast members, where we get Kristen Wiig and Jimmy Fallon joining the bunch. So, do you feel like you're going to nail it now?
I'm feeling okay about cast members. As good as it looks for the seasons, I mean, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. So you have to think that we're going to get more from stuff like season 14, season 32. So I don't know. That one actually makes me more nervous than any of the other ones right now, even though it looks like I'm very close. I've got to get 6 out of the last 18 brand new seasons, and we haven't talked about it yet. I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah, so we will see what happens. We're at, like you said, 25 out of 31 seasons so far. We added season 39 to the bunch tonight, but already had episodes from 49 and 34 before. So will be very interesting to see what pops up here in the final 18 episodes of this countdown. All right, guys, this was an absolute blast getting to hang out with you for the last over 2.5 hours talking about these 3 episodes. So I know that, there's a lot of interesting debate here, but I thought you 3 were fantastic additions to the panel here tonight. So I really appreciate you joining the show. Dan, would you like to say anything to the listeners?
Thank you for the great comments I've been able to watch. John, Bill, it is always a pleasure being able to hang out with you guys. An honor and a privilege. Xander, Jeff, it was incredible meeting you both. I'm sure all of our paths will cross in the future. And the only thing I would say is I grew up in Chicago in the 90s, so I wouldn't have been able to be objective about that Jordan episode. That's my final comment.
Yeah, I feel you. I understand that. Xander, seriously, such a great job for your first podcast with us. Really appreciate all the insight that you brought to the show tonight. Did you have a good time, and anything you would like to plug to the listeners?
I had a great time. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bill. You are very entertaining. I'll say you're color commentators at the very least. Dan, Jeff, it was very nice doing this panel with you both. I had a good time. I was very happy to talk about the episodes that I got to talk about, both the good and the not so good. As far as what's going on with me, I've plugged my this is my Instagram handle here in my lower third. My Twitter is the same, just with 2 more L's. If you're in the greater DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you could see me in at least 2 hardcore bands. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Very exciting stuff there from Xander. Jeff, really so great to talk to you about the show. Love all the knowledge and facts you're bringing to the program here tonight. So appreciate you, and anything you would like to plug to our listeners.
I have nothing to plug. I was just thrilled to be here, thrilled to be part of this. I've enjoyed this countdown. I enjoyed the 2, over the last 2 summers. So thanks for letting me be a part of this. I know it's a lot of work to put these together. And also shout out to the Everything You Wanted to Know series, which the 23 one was really above and beyond. So nice work with that.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was just about to say we released Everything You Need to Know About SNL season 23 last Thursday. That one was really, I don't want to say difficult, but I'll say a challenging one to produce. So we really wanted to get it right. We really wanted to tell the story of everything that happened in that tumultuous season of Saturday Night Live, with Norm getting fired and the passing of Chris Farley and Phil Hartman. So there was just a lot of things there that we wanted to cover. So in case you haven't checked that one out, and maybe you're new to the series, I think it's a great jumping in point to see what we've been producing. 42 minutes there, so really just like a long sit down that you can go watch over dinner. So appreciate everybody who has been watching and commenting on that one. Bill Kenny, always a pleasure to hang out with you on this Monday night, so appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, what a great panel tonight. This was a blast, and I'll echo what Jeff is saying there. What a great episode. I mean, it's been a great series, but you're right in my wheelhouse of my college years, and the devastation of losing Farley and Hartman back to back like that. You guys covered it beautifully. So tip of the cap to you and James for that. But yeah, can't wait to talk about it next week.
It's going to be exciting. So appreciate everybody following us here on social media at the SNL Network to never miss any of these things we are posting over there, including the graphics we put up for these episodes. These episodes will be available on our Patreon all week long to our patrons if they would like to watch them before the next time. So patreon.com/the SNL Network. And you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify to never miss anything going on here at the SNN. So 2 months away from the premiere of season 51, a lot of exciting things to look forward to. And we will be back next Monday night for more coverage of our greatest episodes of SNL history. So on behalf of everyone here at the SNN, including Dan, Xander, Jeff, and Bill Kenny, and of course our presenting sponsor, LateNighter.com, my name is John Schneider, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.